All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. We're gonna have some good time today. I can't wait. You know what time it is. We're just gonna get into it. But hold on one second. All right. I have to, like Sir Hale would say, let me have my manners together. You know. Yeah, we're gonna have a good time today. This is gonna be a very interesting conversation. Make sure right now, it's a good time to hit that like button, share it. If you're brand new here, make sure you're subscribed. Okay. This is going to be an interesting conversation. We've been waiting for this forever. I just got to make sure, I had to make sure that the timing was right. You know, as a matter of fact, I'm not in the studio right now. I happen to be in Canada right now. And I just couldn't wait because it was the right timing, you know. But today I don't have a guest. It's not really a stranger to us here. He's a special guest, and we're gonna have this conversation. I have Sir Hill in the house. Thank you for coming through, man.
Before I say anything, can I show some respect to my brother? Ladies and gentlemen,
Stop.
I want to show some respect to my brother, the one of the only, the man of prestige. If you guys are just tuning in, show my brother his respect. Hit that like button, that subscribe button. Make sure you guys share this stream. It's going to be dope tonight. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, man. My pleasure, man. It's definitely a pleasure to have you here. It's been a long time coming. You were one of the first few people on this YouTube space to have me as a guest, and I had a lot of fun. So naturally, I was supposed to reciprocate, bring you on, but like I said, we're taking things, we're following the lead, of the Holy Spirit, if you will, to make sure that things are right. And I think that's the right timing. We're gonna do more and more of this, but today, I want the platform to get to know you. We have a lot of ladies from Africa on this platform. We also have a lot of my brothers from the manosphere, a lot of ladies, So it's a mix, it's a lot going on. But bottom line is that everyone here wants to, even though sometimes they cap about it, they want to learn about relationships. It really comes down to that's what it comes
Right.
down to.
That's a fact.
We beat around the bush, we say this. It's not really about that, but the reality is that majority of the time we're talking about relationships. And people are trying to figure things out. But before we get into all of that, we have a conversation we're gonna have today. Cory, don't do it, right? We're gonna talk about that today, right? Cory, don't do it. But before we get into that, if you, please tell us a little bit about yourself. What would you like us to know about yourself on this platform?
Well, yeah, first of all, salute to Ricky. Hey, Lady Navoa. What's going on, y'all? Salute to Mandrell. Um, Relationships, I have made a conscientious decision to make relationships a focal point of my life's work. And the reason why is part of it comes from my upbringing where our family relationships was just broken. I mean, think about the name of a relationship, broken, right? And looking at how years pass by, like you look up and you like, dang, 10 years have gone by.
Right.
And those fragments, those broken areas are still there. And the effect that that has on business relationships, romantic relationships, raising children, it's a lot. And so I am now channeling my pain, packaged in a way to provide solutions for people to overcome those sort of conflicts in the family. The backbone of that, of course, is your personal development, your sense of purpose, so on and so forth. But I want to leverage my pain to help people not to have to go through that, especially
Same.
unnecessarily. So that's what I'm about, and that's why it used to be on my channel. I used to have like 5 things. It'll be like relationships, education, some comedies, like now, no, relationships. And although it's sometimes it can seem monotonous, like I know we get tired of talking about it. You know
Right.
what I mean? The truth is, no matter what phase of life you're on, we're gonna need to come back and talk about it at some point. And I want to
Yeah.
serve as that resource to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely, man. And I think not a lot of people are able to say with their full chest that this is about relationship. For some reason, they shy away from that. But effectively, that's what we end up talking about. Sometimes we'll say these women. Sometimes we'll say men,
Right.
very few of us in this space talking about men in the reality, in the grand scheme of things. But we're going to talk about that as well. Um, you're also a man of faith. I know you don't like to talk much about that here.
Oh,
Why? Why?
I do.
You do? Okay. Tell us a little bit about that. And that journey and how that fits into talking about relationship.
So one of the reasons why I don't lead first with my spiritual faith walk is because I've noticed when people typically try to put you in boxes.
Yeah.
And so I like to let people hear who I am just genuinely, and you're going to pick up and know exactly what I stand for because I'm going to let you know.
Right.
But I don't want to come off as the uh, in the box. I can't talk to people. I can't relate to people. So I just reach people on a human to human level, and whatever is necessary to come out comes out. The man, I've been in church, grew up in church. Used to be a lead singer.
Right.
At 5 years old, my first song was "Jesus Is the Answer." I started to play the piano at 11 years old. I started
Wow.
writing music at 12 years old, directing choirs. I had groups, so I come from this, and I've just learned that faith is not to be announced; it's to be demonstrated. And so when I
Word.
approach people, my goal is not to announce who I am; it's just to simply be and to connect with people.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, do you recall how we met?
I don't actually. I also want to retract my greeting to Mandrell as well. I want to retract that, so if we can edit that part out. I want to retract that. Take it back, Mandrell.
Right. I knew that tonight we're gonna have a good time. I want us to have fun tonight. This is like the second interview I will do on this channel. The first one was like, I don't know, 3 months ago or so. So we just want to relax and have a good time and talk about this stuff. And eventually, I'll drop the link if anybody want to come up and just chop it up with us, right? Um, but yes, I, I have a question for you. You know, by the way, somebody helped me drop the links to Sir Hale's platform. You're doing a fantastic job. It took me a second to figure out your method. You know, but I like it. You know, I like it because it demonstrates process. This whole thing is going to be a process. There's no jumping right into the answers that we're looking for. It's not going to happen,
That's
right?
a fact.
And a lot of people, even yesterday. Oh, by the way, I show up on Sir Hill's Super Sunday every Sunday night. A fantastic panel discussion, that I'm really really enjoying. And on the last one, uh, young lady Sahida, beautiful Sahida, right? She wanted to get to it, and so it takes a second to figure that out. At first, it start to feel like we're just talking about just women, 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 women. But if people are just patient enough, we're gonna get there, right? And that's something I figured out about your method. So I really love that. So somebody dropped the link to Sir Hill's platform. But tonight I want to touch everything. Because um, I started this channel exactly about 13 months ago, last year October. And it was my way of contributing to the conversation. And I had a lot that I felt I could share. But then also the manosphere space, to be precise, taught me a lot about how impatient I was. I thought I was patient. I am a fairly very patient person, but I thought
Right.
I was,
Right.
right? But this space taught me to be patient with men, particularly, not women. You and I, we've been married for 15 years, so we
Let's.
know.
Oh, pause. Pause.
Wait,
What he meant to say is he's been married to his wife for 15 years, and I've been married to my wife for 15 years. Come on, let's get ready.
facts,
Come on,
facts,
let's
facts,
get ready.
facts, facts, facts. You and I
Pause.
have been married men
Hey,
for 15 years.
right.
Married to our separate wives.
Married to my wife for
To your
15
wife,
years.
and I'm
Absolutely.
married to my wife. Absolutely. Um, so we kind of see some things ahead of people. Yoruba people would say, "Tomode," that means a child. "Tó bá ń gégi inú igbó, àgbà ló máa mọ ibi tó máa wó sí." when a child is cutting a tree, which is typically in Africa, they are cutting them with a cutlass and manually, right? When a child is cutting the whole tree, it's an adult, an elderly person, an experienced person that will see what direction that tree is going to fall. A child just doesn't know, they don't know what they don't know. So you and I, we have when you've had certain experiences, you can see certain things that younger people can't see. Not their fault. And I always knew that. But knowing something and being able to demonstrate it is two different things. You know. So the manosphere space has taught me uh, to help sharpen up my listening skills. They're trying to say something. The same grace I would apply to women naturally, the way I was raised. Now we're in a space where we need to kind of apply it to men. And I don't know exactly how I feel about that. You know, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I want to know your thoughts about that in terms of listening to men in this time that we're in right now. What are your thoughts around that?
That's a really good question. So when I was a kid, I used to love to play with Tonka trucks. Like if you gave me some Tonka trucks and some action figures, I was great. As a kid, I would take those trucks out to wherever I could find dirt. Because it was at the time we was watching movies where you dig, you're gonna find some treasure or something.
Hmm.
So I just be digging, 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 digging. And I felt, the process of just digging was enjoyable because there's this belief you're gonna find something there. So fast forward to today, I think that's how it is with people. Sometimes you got to be okay with digging a bit. And I think that a lot of people don't have the patience to dig because if we don't see something right there on the surface, we don't think that it's there. And in these conversations, you're absolutely right that we do have to dig a bit because a lot of people are frustrated and they have not been able to talk. And
Hmm.
years and years of dealing with grief, trauma, being silent, so on and so forth, that create layers. And in order to have a real conversation, you don't just
Hmm.
jump into that. You got to develop some trust. They have to know that when they're talking, you're actually hearing what they're saying. Right? It's a
Hmm.
lot of different things. And so I think that you're right that we do have to be okay with digging a bit.
Yeah.
Um, and that comes by way of listening.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. You don't dig by asking questions so much. Sometimes you dig by listening and letting people talk and uncover the stuff that's hidden, within their own minds.
Right. Right. Absolutely. I like that. It's not just about talking. Sometimes you know, you got to be patient and let them kind of wander around what they're trying to say. And you have that urge. You really want to ask a question. In fact, you can see ahead, right? But you're like, nah, you're humble enough to say there's something in there that I don't know that I need to hear. But let's do some quick shout outs. Let me bring that manners back to the front right now. First of all, shout out to the super chat. Ricky Webster, thank you so much. I appreciate you for the super chat. Thank you so much for that. Then let me shout out some of the people that are in the comment. Of course, we have Ricky, we have D'Souza. D'Souza says, surviving tier. I have questions. We're going to talk about that. We're not done with that part, right? Shout out to Mindrell. Yeah, Mindrell. We have Lady Navor. As always, she's always supporting here. Just like
It is
D'Souza.
Navoa.
Navoa. Navoa.
Navoa.
Navoha. Right?
Navoha. I don't hear no H. See,
I,
we don't
I
talk
have
about
my
that.
I have my H factor there. It's okay. It's okay. We're gonna survive. uh, then let me see if there's anybody else I'm missing. I have Daryl here. Daryl Long is here. Shout out to
What's up,
Daryl.
good man?
Yes, sir. And then we have Lady Hale.
What's going
Come,
on, lady?
come on,
What's
man.
going on with you?
Come on,
What's
man.
going
There's
on
a
with your baby?
chance. There you
What's
go.
going
There
on
you
with your
go.
baby?
Shout out to Lady Hale. Thanks for allowing him to come here. Yes, allow him to come here. Let's see. Who else do we have? Yeah, I think there. And shout out to everybody else that's watching behind the scenes. So the your one of your I think it's your biggest video or so. I think it's called "She's Not Ready to Be a Wife," or "She Was Always a Wife." The title was "She's Not Ready to Be a Wife." There's something that's conflicting in me when it comes to. I hear a lot of talking point. Nah, she's always a wife. She gotta be a wife first. I hear that a lot. But then you also said she's not ready to be a wife. In your opinion, why are so many wives to be not getting scooped off the market?
A lot of them simply are not prepared to be wives. See, so let's go back a little bit. I am doing something on children who were raised between the 70s and the 90s. Something happened in that age, man. It's
Mm,
something happened. We were taught to just get married and have kids. We were not taught how to be husbands and wives. And
mm,
to me, I think it's more difficult initially to be a wife than it is to be a husband. I think as you grow older, it becomes difficult to be a husband because you provide and you protect, so on and so forth. But I
mm,
think initially it's hard to be a wife because of all the demands. And a lot of our women have been programmed to be single women, but taught to have a desire for marriage. And I think that there's a conflict there. So a lot of women are not being scooped up because they're simply ill-equipped to do that job and to do it well. And this is reflected in, you see the divorce rates, and the reason being irreconcilable differences. We don't know how to work through things. And you don't just go and have a wedding and get married and have a marriage. Marriage is
mm.
about mindset and principles. And a lot of us just haven't been taught that. So I think that is the reason.
Wow. Now here, I completely agree with what you just said. Something happened between the what is it, 80s and 90s, and probably like honestly, I'll just say 80s and 90s because even some of these 2000 babies, they be making more sense sometimes.
Precisely. Absolutely.
So something happened with people that were raised in the 80s and the 90s. Uh, so I thought it was just women. You know, I'm 43. I have I have quite a few of my contemporaries between 35 and 50. Well, that's kind of wide range, but let me just put it there, right? And they're single, you know. But then recently, I noticed that some of the guys are also single, 41, 42, 43. If not single, something terribly happened in their marriage and divorced, you know. And when they start to talk, I'm like, did you learn anything from that situation? You know? So the same question, what do you think is happening with the men, especially those that have never been married and they're 40 and above? Let's say 35 and above, never been married, 35 and above. What's going on with them?
Well, two things. One, I think some men just don't want it because we don't fear marriage, we fear divorce. And I think that because of what's been shown, I think a lot of men fear that. The bigger issue, however, is
Mhm.
that just like women haven't been raised to be wives, men haven't been raised to be men. I'm making a distinction here. I'm not saying that
Hmm.
men weren't raised to be husbands. I'm saying men weren't raised to be men. And part of that is expressed in a lot of men's inability to take ownership and leadership for their own personal lives. And what's going on with you, baby? So part of that is because of that. So men haven't been raised to be men because 70s, 80s, 90s, the putting the father out of the home. You have the rise of single parenthood. Fathers are now fighting for their kids, and then men are no boys didn't see a healthy example of a man, and so they're forced to become the type of man their mother would want to date, and not the kind of man that they should be. And I think that's being played out, and that's reflected in some of the frustrations you hear from men, right?
Hmm.
And then you lump on that all the love songs. I call it the scent music, where it's all about, "Ooh, baby, I want to take you." It was all this. I'm trying to win her. I'll do anything. I'll give you my money.
I'll
I'll look
do
good.
anything.
Yeah. And I think that all that combined together has created a level of disdain for men because men are not walking as masculine men. They're constantly in this state of trying to win women, and
Hmm.
that's kind of the way not to win them. If that makes sense.
That's on point.
Yeah.
That's literally on point. You said something profound just now. They were raised to be husbands, not men, right? Not men. That is so profound because what do we know? There's a lot of correlations amongst the black people all around the world, just in case you don't know. no matter what kind of accent they speak, where they're from, what continent they come from, they were raised in. Black people have so much commonality. It's ridiculous. But we're going to talk about that too, right? But they were raised to be husbands, not men. And husbands, in so many ways, I mean, it's quite different from being a man, you know. And I can start counting all the different way, all the different things that's coming to my head right now, and how just being able to stay stuck in a marriage because you're loyal to that situation does not necessarily make you a man. Wow, that's crazy.
Can I say, and see, as a proponent of marriage, I'm like, you know what, marriage all in, but it's
Right,
but what I'm not for is me and standing something to say I'm in this. If it's adversely affecting his health, people, what we've done with marriage is almost like a sacred cow. You can't touch, you can't say anything.
right.
And marriage itself is supposed to be tested. It's supposed to be questioned. I'm sorry, hold on. My kids are being loud. Sorry about that.
I
Yes.
couldn't
So
hear them.
yes. So marriage is supposed to be investigated. It's supposed to be looked into,
Right.
and because marriage is like this sacred thing which it is sacred, we don't
Right.
ask questions. We don't look at a man's um, sense of fulfillment, his frustrations. We just, if it's behind a marriage, we can't touch it. And I've learned that there are men who are literally perishing earlier because they are with women who have the benefit of his provision, but don't have the responsibility of protecting that man's heart and his purpose.
Mm,
And so telling men to stay in it just because you did it is equivalent to me telling somebody to keep going down this road, even though you're going in the wrong direction just because you started. So
right.
while I'm not a proponent for saying get divorced, I'm not in it for telling men to just stay in something just because you did it, especially when the person he's with is harming him.
Right. You know, we have a tendency to practice whatever we practice. How we do one thing is how we do everything else. Right. And there are things that make me question a lot of men. They complain. You don't like when I use the word complain. I keep using it for a
No,
reason.
I think it's a good word.
Okay. I guess it depends on context, right? As usual, right? But they're complaining about situations that they actually have a choice to leave or stay, right? Like you literally can leave that situation, but you stay in it. It's a situation where you're feeling being manipulated. You're feeling like you're being misused, not to use the other word for the algorithms, right? But you stay in it because, quote unquote, family first. And then you forget that there's a downstream effect, right? If you can't protect that family, it's like women too, right? If you can't protect, if your actions cannot protect the children, it doesn't matter how much you say you want to protect the children. You're gonna effectively hurt the children. Being a man, in my opinion, first learning how manhood, right? First, right? Being a good husband that will create the effect you're looking for is a function of that manhood. You know? So if you're missing that piece, if you're just gonna go in there just to be a husband, 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 there's a good chance that you're going to create the wrong effect. So that's really, really some profound points that you just made. Let's talk about drop. Let's talk about drop. Sir Hale speaks. Right. Um, drop, dick, reputation, shaming. Can you tell us about the rest of it? What's the O and the P? And give us some context around that. And I want this platform is about, last time I checked, it's over 70% ladies. You know, I want them to hear what you have to say about the drop language.
Excellent. So, ladies and gentlemen, this show is about to take a turn. So, the drop language came out because I noticed a pattern with toxic women talking to men, particularly good men who make good points. So, the first one that women do when they're trying to gain emotional leverage in the conversation is they frame the conversation. Framing just means that once I put a frame on you, I'm no longer responding to you. I'm responding to the frame I put you in. So, based off of this comes the drop language. So, if there's a conversation going on and the man is holding a woman accountable of something, well, what is she going to do? She's going to talk about the deed. She's going to talk about how little your dick is. His dick is so little. I can't believe how little his stuff is. Girl, she ain't, girl, he ain't all that you, girl. You know you small. And what she's doing is she's not attacking your argument. She's attacking your self-esteem so that your self-esteem will shut you up.
Right.
If the little dick doesn't work, if you cool on that, when she moves to the R, where now it becomes a little bit bigger, where she starts to go after your reputation. You look at different things like Johnny Depp in that situation. You look at another social media couple, Miss La Truth, and just go down the history. When a woman wants to attack a man, she will go after his reputation. And so while men are responsible oftentimes for more physical, aggression, women are responsible for of the more reputational assault. So reputation. O stands for she minimizes your opinion. If you give her facts or tell her, hey, something's wrong, well, that's just your opinion. I mean, that's just how you see it. That's just, she minimizes your opinion to devalue your claim. And if that doesn't work, she'll affect your pride. And that's whatever makes you stand tall. And so that drop language is typically what toxic women use to gain leverage in the conversation when they don't have the leverage to fight against facts.
I've got 2 follow-up questions. That's some good stuff. Yes, let that roll. That's some good stuff, right? Now, here's the thing. There was a sign language. The first viral moment I had on this platform was about the sign language. The lead attorney and all his minions, they try to shame me with this stupid sign language.
Shout out to TLA.
Shout out to TLA, But, they gave me my first little viral moment that we kicked off with, So the language is a real thing. I've always known that shaming, let me say belief. I believe that shaming, blaming, judgment, condemnation, right? The obsession with right and wrong are completely destructive, simply because people have options, man. They don't have to listen to your nonsense. They don't have to listen to you shame them. They'll even if it's wrong, they'll take the other route rather than, because emotions is always taking the lead, right? So I think it's good to point out things like that. They give us perspective and it's easier to remember, right? So now the ladies that listen, like if you have a tendency to say, that's why it's little, right? So now my question is, do you think it's deliberate? Do you think they deliberately do that?
I think that 62.7% absolutely do it deliberately. I think the others, and I mean this, I think the others do it because it's a habit. No one has really checked them on that. I know some, so you say your audience is 70-something% women. So mine is about 30-something, but my loudest critics are women, and they range from about 40 to 60-something, right? Maybe a little bit older than that. Okay. And I've learned that sometimes when some women feel triggered, they stop at the whatever word triggered them. They no longer hear the meaning of it. It's that trigger. And that trigger to them is enough justification for them to go in on a verbal assault to you. And I think that some of them, their culture to do it this way because they saw other women handle situations like this. Right. I do believe, however, there is a population that find enjoyment at ripping somebody down. Girl, I told him off. Girl, I gave him a piece of my, I clip it, put it on TikTok. She ain't to be played with. So I think that there's some people who do it deliberately, but I think that it's some people's template. So they're doing it right. Yeah. Right.
So because people, what they know is what they do. It becomes subconscious. It becomes it becomes a second nature, right? If that's all they grew up seeing, and they do it like effortlessly, like a reflex action, But nonetheless, we need to start calling these things out on both ends, right? Now, do men have languages that they use these days? I personally believe that men are becoming more feminine. Do they have their own languages?
Yes. Men have either 2 things. Either they talk irrationally or they don't talk at all. So men speak in extremes. So either we are extremely men who don't have life experience and who haven't worked through their own, internal processes. Right. Extreme. So just take a look at some of the panels that we used to just go to YouTube and it just all in, just it's just this man, just this cesspool of toxic stuff,
Yeah.
or we don't say nothing. So I think men in the world we live in today, we talk in extremes.
In extremes. Yes, yes. Shout out to D'Souza for the I think this is something Frank. Something Frank, but for the $10 super Frank, whatever you want to call it, Thank you. Shout out to you, right? D'Souza says the fathers abandon the homes. What says you about this? Is this a real thing?
No, that's not entirely true. So there was a population of men, but a very small one, who abandoned the home. And by abandonment, I want to take the actual legal definition, that they knew that they had responsibilities and chose to leave, and that there
Right.
was no communication between the father and the children. Most men do not abandon their kids, because the use of public assistance goes up, and public assistance requires that men not be in the home. That's certainly factored in. The crack epidemic certainly factored in. And then the ability to just get divorced and to leverage the system against fathers also played a part as well. So that statistically, it's just not true that fathers in general abandon the home. Uh, just like just like women who've left their kids, all of them didn't leave because they abandoned their children. And I
Right.
want to use that word carefully. But most
Right.
fathers didn't do that. Most fathers, especially black fathers, are the most active, and we're starting to get the credit of what we've been saying for the last several years. The statistics are starting to back up those claims.
Right, right. Awesome. Now, you made mention of something. I'm glad you pointed that out. People have a tendency, like you were just saying, the extremes. They make whatever is an extreme situation, they generalize it, and then basically they continue to perpetuate that, and then they project it, and then people that are not necessarily going through that, they start to actually feel like they're going through it because they're empathizing with those extreme situations, right? And when you're empathizing with those extreme situations, your energy will shows that because naturally you're feeling attacked. When you feel attacked, you want to defend, right? And then we have all of this kind of toxic conversations all over the place, including people that have not necessarily gone through that situation, right? So it happens on. I've noticed it happen on both sides. It happened on the men's side, but the conversation happens on the women's side, as well as on the men's side of the conversation. So I'm glad you said that's not majority of people. Like, why do we say these things like it's majority of people? That's literally the minority. They do exist, but that's the minority. However, what we're saying to become almost majority right now is people that get into disagreement in a marriage, right? And then once the lawyers start whispering and there's some kind of assets involved, and then greed creeps in a little bit, pride creeps in a little bit, the people drag themselves through the court, right? And then we have a whole mess that they have to drag themselves through, right? But we're also speaking about the Western world. Now, majority of the people on this platform, I have to let you know, are Nigerians who live in the diaspora. They live in majority in the United States. They live in Canada. Then we have a lot of people in London, Germany, Europe, and very few in Africa. But many of them were raised like myself in Africa. So the idea that public assistance stood out the window, right? It doesn't exist, right? But nonetheless, remember they're listening to the same spaces, right? They're listening and they can empathize to some level, and then they connect with that, and then they start telling each other story. And then I see some dudes like even in some of these chats, they're Nigerians. I'm like, dude, you can't how you can relate with that? That's not your story, you know. But then they internalize it; it becomes their story because maybe as an adult they've tasted a little bit of it. Maybe they got dumped as a young adult, or they went through a very nasty divorce. So when they go on Google and start googling what happened, what does she mean by she need to find herself, right? Right? What they're gonna find is the manosphere for the most part, right? And so they start listening to these stories and then they start repeating it to themselves, right? And then it actually takes on life on its own. So now that's a lot of things that's going on, right? So now no public assistance in Nigerian people's stories, but then they actually do. They don't know what they don't. Some of them are benefiting from it, but they don't know the background of it. They don't know where it started from. You see what I'm saying? So to me, I feel like, we could push that to the side a little bit. That's the background. Where we are right now, right? When people are married, right? They have situations, right? Things happen, right? People cheat. Believe it or not, that's not necessarily an extreme situation. It's much more common on both sides now, starting with emotional cheating, emotional affairs. It could be a text message, somebody, quote unquote, is not feeling heard, but they're feeling heard by some random dude on text message, right? And before they know it, they throw the family away, right? And pride, when you mix that up with pride, I'm not going to let him treat me like that. I'm not going to let her treat me like that. No, I'm the price. Now it's confusing. That confusion everywhere. So it's quite interesting what's going on, right? Like I was saying earlier, we've been in this marriage game for 15 years. Okay, a lot of people are saying, like you said earlier, they're choosing not to, right? They're choosing not to get married. All right, I'm sorry, brother, I have to do this. Okay, they're choosing not to get married. That's what you said earlier, right? And I
Stop
say,
the cap.
all right, yeah. If you're choosing not to get married, you're not involved in this conversation. At least not on like a repetitive way, right? You keep coming back into this conversation, right? There's a reason why you keep coming back into this conversation. It's one of two I can think of. I'm just going to categorize it as the two, right? Either you're trying to recruit people actively into your lifestyle, whatever that is, I'm not sure, right? Or you actually want this. You're just trying to figure it out, but you're having a hard time admitting that, right? A lot of people making this noise about what they don't want have either failed in it, right? Not graduated, failed, right? Failed in it, or maybe they're trying to figure, they're asking this questions. But what do people do these days? They go on Google, right? They go ask Google the questions. And what do I know about Google? I've been on Google creating content for Google since 2009. It's a bathroom wall. Anyone can slap content on Google, right? It just depends on who is really good at the SEO game, who's really good at the exposure and marketing game, right? They become the loudest and then they become the truth, right? What do you think is missing? Do you believe in Google, right? Can Google be a good, helpful source? Or is Google destroying marriages more, right? Is the social media destroying relationships more? Because somebody's going to tag onto that and say, hey, we don't have to sign paper with the state. I don't care about the state. About deciding to do life with a person. Do you think the social media is destroying the chances of these people?
So if I could address the first part of what you said,
Yeah.
I think Google is great, but I think the fact that people are searching for stuff speaks to the fact that people are looking for answers.
Yeah.
And if we could find those answers in our communities, I think that it would stop. I think it would stop a lot of this.
I wanted to distract you. That
But
was
the truth is,
intention.
yeah, but the truth is, I've noticed I did a search on Google just to do some comparative to do some comparative searches to see if I bring up issues. Let's say a woman neglects her husband, husband
Mhm.
neglects his wife, and I
Right.
just did a comparative search just to see the results. There are far more results for women than there are for men. So just in
Mm.
doing that, and I went through just to see this, men collectively don't have resources to speak to our needs.
Mm.
For the most part, especially in the westernized cultures, it's just go to work, make some money, level up, get on your purpose, and be the leader. That's it. The only
Yeah.
emotion you get is happiness. And if somebody passes away, then a little bit of sadness. But that's
Mhm.
the full spectrum of emotions you get. Is you got to be happy or occasional sad. And if you cry too much, right? Then you cry a little bit too much, then you're a little child.
Yep.
So I think that Google exists, and it is a necessary thing because it's a place where men can go find answers. So that's the first thing.
Right.
The other piece to this is I do think that men want relationships. I think that just what has become now, if a man comes in and he's providing and he's taking care of stuff,
Mm.
and the fact that he could lose half of his stuff
Right.
just because a woman decided I don't want to do it today.
Right.
That's a lot for a lot of men. And you take into effect that a lot of men already are not making a lot of money. So throw a couple kids on top of this. Now he's got to pay child support and
Right.
give a little bit of extra stuff.
Mm.
That's a lot to take for most people. And I think those are the reasons why men are saying no to the way that we do marriage now. It's not that they're
Right.
giving up on love and on relationship. I just think the marriage as it sits now, they don't see a real benefit, especially if that marriage dissolves.
Right. Right. All right. Now let's dig in a little deeper. Right. Your wife says she's no longer feeling it. A woman who says that to you is just simply no longer in love with you. We understand there are reasons. Everybody makes up what their reasons are. Everybody allude to the reasons that suit their narratives more, right? But bottom line is your wife is no longer in love with you. She ain't feeling it no longer, right? Oh yeah, that's because she's been talking to some other dude. You're right. You're right. Whatever you think is the reason is.
Well, you're right.
But bottom line now is that your wife is no longer in love with you, right? Is there anything that men could learn in this time and age, considering that, provision by way of financial and protection by way of physically is obviously no longer needed from men, typically? Is there some things that men need to learn about what's going on right now?
See, I think what you're speaking to is potentiality. There's a potentiality that women don't need men for those things, but in reality, most people are regular earning people, so we still need what we got, right? That's just what it is. It is we happen not to live in the jungle and have to fight off lions, tigers, and bears, so we don't get a chance to see our nature at work. But feminine women will always want a masculine man. This has nothing to do simply with money. And same thing with men. Masculine men are going to want a feminine woman. The issue is, can we see each other's value beyond what we can provide materialistically?
Right.
And I think that, especially in Western culture, we judge someone's value based off of what they have and not on who they are. And we don't look down 10 years. We look at the next few weeks. And I think we miss things like that. So what men can learn today is stop. I believe in lead with your wallet. But when I say lead with your wallet, I'm not talking about with your money. When I got my wallet, I got stuff that's important to me, things that are important to me in my wallet. So to me, lead with your wallet means lead with your purpose, lead with what your intentions are, lead with what's important to you, right? Lead with those particular things so that a woman gravitates and connects with who you are, and then she can benefit later if she shows herself worthy to benefit from what you have.
Right.
And I think that's how men have to go about it. I just think this culture now is we flash what we have, and we want the women who we use the flash to get to like us. And so we use the flash, and now she's attracted to the flash. If you lose the flash, there was no connection between you two.
Right.
And so I think men have to change that to some degree, but then also women have to stop being so materialistic and superficial and look at a man's heart, because someone buying you a nice purse is much different than someone actually caring about you.
Damn. All right. So let me say this, right? When it comes to I believe strongly that women follow. I'm not worried about what they say. I'm not sure. I'm not really worried about what they really say or what the rhetorics or what the most popular rhetorics are. I believe they're influential. I believe they can sell us 50-50. Eventually, we start buying into it, right? Uh, but they're still following effectively, meaning you bought into it and then they follow. But if you didn't buy into it in the first place, they actually will follow, right? So it depends on how strong is that core in what we believe in as men of society, right? And when we start to fall apart, right, they follow that lead too. Whatever that means, whatever that looks like on the surface, including the drop language, right? So if somebody say, "Oh, she's disrespectful," what do you mean? I need you to tell me what you mean, right? I'm not just going to jump on that bandwagon and say, "Hey, you know." But what we find these days is that many men are jumping on that, probably because they are having that experience. They can relate, right? So it's like a vicious cycle. It's spreading more and more, right? I can relate. Yeah, I remember that, And you know that men really we don't develop into our fully beautiful self until later. Right? So and but that used to be okay. Like it was okay that you were not the class clown who made everybody laugh and or the basketball player, it was okay. When you get to it, maybe second, third year in college, and some chick is that he's cute, right? You get to it then, right? But we have nowadays, men are remembering what happened in eighth grade, the person that dumped them in the eighth grade. They're getting younger and younger, teaching older and older men how to move like men, right? We have the 23 years old Austin, what's his name? Holloman?
Yeah, shout out to him. I like that brother.
Yeah, he's lame. But, you know, but I'm sorry, it's not lame. He's young. He don't know shit about life. It's okay. I allow that. My disappointment is a bunch of 50, 60-year-old men repeating his talking point. That got me.
So let me jump in on this point. So it's I don't have the clinical studies on this,
Okay.
but I want to hypothesize that the reason why it's not that older men are looking at younger men for something. I think that there's a point where they can resonate with each other.
Right. They could relate.
Yes. So if both the 23-year-old and the 50-year-old have an experience that they both had at 17 years old, I'm gonna tell you what the difference is.
Yeah.
The 23-year-old is in an age where he gets to express what went wrong and what hurt him. That 50-year-old didn't get that opportunity because the world told him to shut up. Right. So I think that when they hear the younger man talking, it's like they're living vicariously through them because they wanted to say those same things, they just couldn't. And I think that's why people like Austin Hollerman is doing a good job because he's bringing voice to what a lot of men feel and want to say.
Shout out to Lady Navarre. You have to repeat that question. I got to make sure I'm listening to my brother as he's talking. So I can only pay too much. He's expert at this. He's paying attention. Let me first of all shout out to you, Sir Hale, right? I don't know how you do get everybody together for the panel on Sundays, man. That's like the mental gymnastics just to get you here today. And you were really good. You were on time. But it's still like, I can't imagine, So shout out to you for doing a good job every Super Sunday and putting those panels together, I had a taste of that just by dealing with just you. Can you imagine that, right? So yeah, I have to please repeat the question, Lady Navarre. I would love to take your question. I'm pinning some that I'm seeing so that we can get to it later on, But yeah, so here's my thing about I'm gonna be honest with you, and you enlighten me as much as you can enlighten me, right? We have some fundamental differences or I should maybe say disagreement on some of these movements. He was told to shut up. That's an interpretation as far as I'm concerned, right? Instead of he was told to shut up, we didn't have time to be loud about nonsense as men in society. We now have time. We now work at home, multiple remote jobs, three six-figure jobs, right? We could we could make all this money. Still not gonna step outside and talk to some real women. Just talk to them on the panel and roast their ass all day long, right? That's what it looks like on the surface. We know that's the loud minority anyway. That's a reality, right? But then those loud minority are highly influential, just like anything else in life. Very influential. It's always been the loud minority that are the influencers. That's why they're loud, right? They're getting the attention. But we see people jumping in there and becoming. So I don't see it as we were told to shut up. If my woman is talking to me and she has some point of contention, something that she feels like she's not really satisfied about, I literally have so much time to dwell in that situation. Some things are just not a big deal to what I know as men, including she came with a little condescending. I can be like, babe, why you talk like that? Tell me what's going on again. Okay, I got you. I'll take care of that. I got it. Trust me. That's the conversation right there. As opposed to, I was busy watching TLA last night for 5 hours. Not TLA, maybe KS, right? For 5 hours. And basically, I'm a human being. I'm boiling, right? I can relate a little bit. I feel like she's disrespectful sometimes. I can't see how that's not really a big deal right now. My interpretation is changing of the events that are happening. And I go and I say, hey, don't talk to me like that. I'm stoic. Right? I'm exaggerating a little bit, but this is happening. This is happening, right? So we didn't have time as men or society. Somebody says soft life creates feminine men. Hard times create masculine men. Soft times, or what is it, good times, create feminine men. So that's a pushback for you. What do you have to say to that?
I think there's some truth to that. But I think that that's for, excuse me, I think that's for both men and women. That when things are too easy, the things you had to learn, the lessons, you don't get the lessons of hardship. And I think that everybody has to go through some rigidity in life to develop character, both
Right.
men and women. But I want to rewind a little bit to what you said before.
Right.
When I said that men are silent, it's not that their wives are silencing them. Like men who were raised in single mother-led households often were taught to shut up, be quiet, listen to what I say, do what I want to do.
In the household. Gotcha.
Yeah. And so again, between the 80s, and Daniel Goleman pins this in his book, Emotional Intelligence, that between 7 and 11, these are critical years for kids where the emotional template is developed. So whatever you put in there, whatever you put in at these critical years, they're going to play this out over the rest of their life if they don't manage that. So if when he's dealing with an emotional issue and he's been taught to suppress it, well, what mother helped him to do at 11 years old, he's going to be doing at 41 years old, unless he number one identifies that it's a problem, and number two corrects it. Right? If he doesn't do that, he's going to in turn marry someone who reminds him of his mother, which is why typically you hear men complaining about those two kind of women, right? Because most men marry what they're familiar with, not necessarily who they want.
Correct.
So this is why I say men were silenced. It's not the wives are not the wives get the blame, but the burden is on the mother because his emotional template was developed partially by her.
Now let's talk about this one. Lady Navarre has a point here. She said he trained, talking about Austin, right? Which is kind of weird that a 23-year-old man who hasn't really figured out his own self is training society. But hey, welcome to YouTube world, right? Shout out to him. He did something right, at least, right? He training them to leave their own women for other countries' women. Shake my head. I don't get that. You can't train your own. Why get out your lane and try it there? What's your take on this?
I disagree with this. So I think that we see different country, and then we see the people of that country. Right. What I look at is the culture. A lot of people are opting to go places because they benefit from other people's culture. I'll give you an example. Here in the States, if you earn $150,000 a large, you, my sir, get a chance to win the prize. What is the prize? a beautiful woman who's between a 7 and a 9, what do you win? The lavish lifestyle and the prestige of
Mm,
having a beautiful woman on your arm. So here, beauty is a privilege given to those who make a certain amount of money.
right,
In other cultures, it is standard. Like they gonna work out, they go into the gym, they cook. There's not that things are perfect,
right,
but what's a prize here is
right.
just standard stuff there. And I think that's what men are opting to go to.
Are
You
you
don't want
ADOS?
no. I'm just me, right? I'm just me.
So you're not ADOS.
No,
Okay. So if you're not ADOS, just you don't have to answer. Um, is it Caribbean or Africa?
Am I that, my brother?
Was
No,
that
no, I'm just here, my brother. I'm just
okay?
where
So
I come
you
from
just said your
is
brother.
from the
Okay. All
from the
right, brother.
my
All
brother.
right. All right. All
No,
right.
this from Illinois, man.
That's all right. Have you spent any time in Africa or in the third world country before?
No,
All right. So I can hear that. You know, majority of people in those countries. I was born in Dallas, but I was raised there. You know, everything I know is Nigeria, basically. Yeah, it's
you're
kind of
raised in Dallas,
weird.
Texas.
I was born in Dallas,
Okay, okay.
but raised in Africa. You know, most of my life I've been here, but you know, my developing years between ages 3 and 18 was in Africa. So everything I know is there. Majority of the people also live in the city. Guess what's common with the city, right? They also get westernized. They have access, especially now today, they have access to the internet. They're bougie as hell. They think they, you know, they look after. Is it look after? What's the word? Like they really look up to the African American experience. They're influenced by hip hop. You know, shout out to I like this brother. Shout out to O'Shea Duke Jackson. He'll tell you more about that. You know, so I think there's unrealistic expectations around the third world countries, especially knowing that you're not going into the village. You're gonna try to stay in the city and have that soft life that you're used to over here.
But here's the thing, though, man for streets.
Uh-huh.
Like if we know that statistically women outlive men,
Right,
what man wants to if there's the potential, and I don't think that any woman is just comes ready made for the most part.
right,
But if men are saying we've tried, because I think people
right.
discount that. People just assume that men woke up one day and said, "We know we're not trying anymore." If you think about these relationship topics, is
Yeah,
mostly men having these. It's mostly men talking about these things. Men
right.
have been trying, and because men also want that love and care as well, they're going to what they believe is the best potential to get that. And I don't think that should be discounted. And I don't think
They're
that
not.
that
They're not wrong.
men are giving up on their own women.
They're not wrong. You know what
Oh,
I mean.
you're right.
They're not wrong. They're not wrong.
Man, but I
You
know
know.
most people discount that. That most men have tried and tried. Most men's point of reference is their own, right? But how
They
many?
have. Let me say this.
Sure.
Sorry to cut you off, bro. They haven't tried. I'll tell you what I was doing at 23. When I was at 23, I was in college here in Newark, New Jersey, NJIT, right? And at that time, there were two things I was concerned with: making sure I keep those grades up, and making sure I walk up to every girl I see that I like. I say something like walking up to them. And I'll tell you what. Maybe it's the way I was raised. You could tell me that. That's fine. What they have to say to me didn't matter to me. It was basically the pursuit that gives me a kick, right? And of course, naturally, quite a few times, you bag someone, right? That's my experience. My radars goes off. You know, there's sentence structures, the way we alter our conversation that I tend to notice. I can't even put them into words all the way, right? Squash that aside. That's from the older folks. Some of them got married to the first thing they found. It's just there's nothing wrong with that, you know. But if it happens not to work out, It's like no wonder why you think in Lagos, Nigeria, it's all feminine women. By the way, I'm married to a Lagos girl. She's beautiful as hell. Right? 15 years. But no, she's not traditional. That's cap. It's cap when I hear that.
Stop the cap.
You've heard that a few times when we're on this panel. Who you married to? You're married to a Nigerian girl. Yeah, that's why you're talking like that. Nah, it's not, dude. Nah. She has traditional values, but she's just as modern as they come. Okay? So there's certain things that I hear when some of those people, they had their first experience, they married that person fell out of love. So what they did, this is what I'm hearing. I can hear it. They're not verbatim. You know, here's why I don't argue with them on the panels. What they're gonna say? Did I say that? I didn't say that. Did I say that? That's what they're gonna say. And they're right. Right? They're right because they didn't say exactly that. Because what I'm hearing can be quite different from what they're saying. Right? But I'm saying this so that people can be aware that when you start to talk, there's a chance that you give yourself away. But we also know that people, like some men, they cheated their way all the way through a marriage. Some. So when the woman said she's no longer in love, it's like, oh, he really wants to keep the family together, but it's like, it's not a big deal. He probably had a side chick that's permanent already, that's ready to take that space. But that's not what majority of the men that we see on the internet talking. These are people that were loyal. Like you said earlier, they were good husbands. But they got to a space where they didn't even see it coming. Completely oblivious to the reality that a woman, yes, can change her mind, that she doesn't like doing it that way anymore. Right? And what do? They equate that to she's no longer feminine. Feminine, fit, what is it? Inspirational?
Now,
Fit,
I
blah.
think we're oversimplifying this.
All right, push it back.
We definitely oversimplifying this. So
Yeah.
again, so typically we start at relationship and marriage. It starts way before this. Again, so when a man can't speak and he's not respected from mothers, sisters, aunties, the first women in his life, that sets a whole template. He then goes out and duplicates that unconsciously in his dating relationships. So there's frustrations there. You know, he gets the best of those frustrations and then marries the best of the frustrations. Now, right? So, and then he's frustrated. So we see the climax of the issue at the marriage, but the issue stem way before then. And the reason I want to harp on this point is because for all of these years, we've been telling men to just be leaders and just be solid and just be strong and hang in there. And if you're a man of faith, to go pray about it and let God lead you. Let God show you what to do. Let God tell you. And what we haven't done a good job of is letting our women know that there are certain criteria it takes to be a wife. And that you can't leverage a man's leadership to get out of the accountability for your role you play in following him. And I think it needs to be said. Wives are not trained to be wives, especially in times that it's not convenient to be one. And so while I do believe let's put the responsibility on the men, the truth is a lot of women are not doing their part because they've not been trained to do that as well. So they get the benefits of having a man's leadership, the benefit of saying, you know what, I'm supposed to be the submissive one, the benefit of the luxury of saying I'm supposed to follow. Because if you say any of those words, if for those who don't know how to dig deep in those conversations, they get out of accountability. And I'm not letting men or women out of accountability.
Right.
Just like men have a part to play in the demise of a relationship, women do as well.
I agree 100%. Now, the accountability thing, right? I push back at men holding random women they don't know accountable. Like, that's just weird as far as I'm concerned. You don't know them like that. Or you arguing with a lady on a panel and you want to hold her accountable. That's how you get dragged on the streets. That's how you get that drop language, right? But in terms of holding adults accountable, just generally, you're all going to be held accountable. Men will be held accountable more just by default, right? And then when women come to me and if you're the one complaining, right? I feel like there are certain types of power that you can engage that you just don't. You may not know. You might not know, but there's certain. If you can complain, there's something you can learn to create the result you're looking for. Typically, there's a minority. They're just an evil person, man or woman. You can't change them, right? But majority of the people, if you're ever in love with that person, something has transpired. We need to hear your particular story so we can help you unpack that. And we don't really get that in any of the spaces. People tend to generalize naturally because they don't want to tell on themselves. They don't really want to. They don't want you to discount their opinion because of their experience. They do this. So I understand it. You see what I'm saying? But I don't think we put responsibility on men. I think we try to only because when we hear that you're not taking responsibility as a man, then of course we're like, yo, you're a man. It's not your fault. That's not what we're talking about. We're not saying it's your fault. We're saying you're going to take responsibility. You're going to be responsible for the result you're looking for, right? It's just your best point of leverage. And I don't hear that. It could be my fault. It could be the kind of videos I'm watching. Maybe, maybe the algorithms is presenting me the same bullshit. It's possible, But I'm just saying, for the most part, I don't hear that. So that's one of the issues I think, and I don't think the answer is going to be any one time. I think it's going to be these conversations because I feel like we're in a time that people really need to make up their own rules from all the insights, right, that they're getting. They hear me, they hear Sir Hale, they go hear the guys at the Lapif Network, they hear my sister and to be Obodo, and they put all of this together and they can make some good sense out of what's going on. I think they're coming because they're looking for some type of answers. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I think is going on. Now, I have a question for you about the manosphere. You're going to be the manosphere, what you may call it, manosphere spokesperson today.
Just so you know, I'm not really manosphere. I interface
Right.
and respect it. But
Right.
can I respond to D'Souza's comment though?
Yeah, what was it? Yes, let's do that.
I thought it was really a really good thing to say, but I said it like this, and I said this in my live stream. You guys are going to hear me say this forever. It costs to be the boss. It costs to be the boss. So yes, if someone is paying for leadership, they are paying whether that's their time, attention, their dedication, their energy to developing themselves. It costs to be the boss. In the context of marriage, is the same way. It costs to be that, and I don't just mean from your money. I mean your dedication, your ability to lead and provide, protect, to empathize, to guide, to direct, to comfort, to console, to be the foundation. It costs something. But just like it costs to be the boss in a marriage, there's a price to stay the wife. So everybody has dues that must be paid so that the structure of that marriage works properly. So to answer your question in short, yes, it does cost.
Now, what's the pushback against leadership? I hear that a lot. Like, I bring up leadership. I'm like, I think leadership is scarce, right? And I think it's a real lacking thing in the family structure today, not just in America, Western world, but period, right? What is the pushback when we bring that up? Why is there so much pushback? Oh, there we go again. Like, you talk about that leadership. Why?
You know what? I don't agree with that. I don't agree that we're lacking leadership. I just think that we have an unjust concept of what leadership is. Typically in relationships, we want men to be led like politicians. So if I vote for you to do a certain thing and you don't do this one, you're not a good leader. Well, marriage doesn't work like that. We're not campaigning and we're not going to change our points to win an election. Leadership is about having principles that you stand on, whether you want to vote for this or not. This is the principles we're standing on. And I think our Americanized way, particularly as it relates to relationships, is we judge leadership based off of how beneficial it is to you and what you want to do, and not necessarily the overall picture. I would say most men who get up and go to work, who love their women, love their kids, have some level of faith, pay their bills, are pretty productive when it comes to society, who contribute value to others, I would say that those men are leaders. It may not be flashy or sexy, but that's what leadership, where it starts with what you do in your personal life, not the stuff we do on top. And I think that a lot of men get overlooked because we don't look at that as leadership. We actually just discount and dismiss that. But I think most men are leaders, whether we want to be or not. Now we can get into the debate where, are there leaders of leaders? We can get into that. But most men who take care of their business, most men are leading in some way.
All right. So the concept servant leadership, what do you think about that?
I think it's absolutely spot on.
Why is that not considered pandering leadership?
Well,
Panderer or panda bear leadership. Because you have to kind of it's listening. There's a place where you're listening. There's a place where there's a lame on the other side who thinks you're pandering.
It depends on your perspective on servant. So servant, it has a weak connotation to it. It just does. Like servant, like, man, weak leadership. That's what it sounds like. But servant just means service. And service to me means it connects to business, and business connects to purpose. So when I trace it all the way back down there, when I'm having a servant's heart and providing that servant leadership, it just means I know what my business is about. I know what I'm trying to do, and whatever it takes for this business to be successful, I'll do just that. So that's kind of how I interpret this.
Okay. All right. I can respect that. I do think weak and showing up weak or strong is a thing. I do think that's a real thing.
Agreed.
I do think in order to properly put to really put an assertive statement around it, make bold statements, that you have to kind of have context. We were talking about Kanye, right? Kanye wife topped the 304. That's what he did, right? From something we all know, right? And he tried to change that narrative a few times, but his results to date shows that situation was a failure, right? I'm not going to judge him, it is what it is, right? But Kanye is still showing up as who he is, right? As the person that he is. He can only see, he just got completely dragged by Donald Trump yesterday, from what I saw. Yesterday, I think they dragged themselves, but whatever, but so I do think that's weak. It depends on perspective, and they're showing up strong. It depends on perspective, but there are studies over time that we could see some patterns that things may look weak, but when you know what you're doing, that you create a very strong outcome on the end of it, right? You just mentioned servant leadership, right? Connected to something in between, but then you said purpose, right? I believe strongly in that, right? Whatever my purpose is, it still has to be with respect to the society, because I don't live in a vacuum, right? I can't be like, that's just me. That's what Kanye is doing, by the way. That's just you, okay? All right, right? To some extent, if you are Prophet Jesus, maybe it will work out. You know what I mean? So, with that being said, is there a line that you would tell men that can help them draw the line? Exactly what am I showing up weak? Exactly. I use exactly because they tend to want to think in pragmatics. They need like a solid, instead of dancing all over the place, answer. When am I weak? When am I strong? When I'm dealing with my woman. Particularly when I'm dealing with my woman, not some random lady on a panel, with my woman.
So that's a big question. Number one, you got to get around some men. Most men, and somebody's gonna be upset with me tonight. I might lose some subscribers after I say this. Men, you're gonna have to stop taking your woman's opinion about your leadership so seriously, especially when she doesn't have a history with being with one. if she doesn't have a reputation with coming from a father who's a strong leader, she's never been in a relationship with someone who's a strong leader, her opinion of what your leadership is just what she has constructed in her head. So you have to get around some other strong, capable men who are in fact leaders and allow them to give you some perspective on where you can grow at and develop yourself from there. Because if you do not do this, you will go through your whole marriage or relationship constantly transforming yourself to the belief about what a leader is that your woman has for you. So today she thinks leaders wear blue, you're wearing blue. Tomorrow she thinks leaders wear yellow, you're wearing yellow. Tomorrow, this time she thinks leaders spend a lot of money, you spend a lot of money. Next time she thinks leaders don't spend nothing yet, and you're constantly adjusting to her. And what you are doing in turn is you're losing respect. So let her opinion of you go, get the respect of men, and then from that you'll start to see that the woman that you're with respects you because you're not living up to her ideals of leadership. You're living up to the definition of leadership, which may be something that she really doesn't know what it is.
Right, because she was looking for something to follow, and she's always looking. It's not deliberate. It's very subconscious. And if all you're doing is just following, somebody said something like a wagging tail yesterday on the show, right? It's
Right.
terrible. It's just
Absolutely.
terrible. It's a bad idea. So definitely, we're saying when I tell people active listening, I thank you for putting some perspective on that, because I have my style of doing these things, right? I tell people active listening. Sometimes they misinterpret that as, oh yeah, listen to do what she said. No, that's not the point. Okay, active listening does quite a few things. Number one, she will feel heard. Feeling heard is not the same thing as you've heard her and you did everything she said you should do. That's not, it's a feeling. As a matter of fact, I tell men, you don't need to have all the answers. That's actually unrealistic expectations of yourself. But something you can learn how to do is active listening, right? Active listening, you'll also listen to what she says too, because there might be some insights in there that will help your leadership. Not carbon copy what she says and doing it exactly, because here's what's going to happen eventually. She can't trust you. She doesn't even know why. She can't put it into words. After all, you're following her. After all, she's making all the. So again, how this plays out in different stories is different from people to people. It just depends on what's going on, right? Sometimes you're just hard-headed as a man. You don't hear nothing, and then the person feel like they're completely out of the loop of what's going on. If that's what we're talking about, that's a different story altogether. And she can't feel safe. If she doesn't feel safe, she can't respect you. It doesn't feel secure, she can't respect. If she doesn't respect you, she can't love you.
So let me tackle this. Let me tackle on the other side.
Yes.
Ladies, it's unfair to be with a man you don't respect, you don't feel safe with, you don't know how to trust him, and then you project why you can't onto him, and he hasn't done anything to create that concern. You got to address that. We put each other through too much stuff because of the stuff we haven't dealt with. If you have trust issues, pause on the relationship, or at least go actively get therapy so that you're not making him pay for some kind of pain he didn't cause, and vice versa as well. We got to stop putting each other through stuff just because we dealing with it. Go get that fixed. Because maybe you got a good leader, but you can't benefit from his leadership because you're always complaining because he's not living up to your idea of what a leader should be. So we got to fix those traumas and stop breaking the people we're with just because we're broken on the inside. It's unfair to the person that we're with.
You're using a buzzword, unfair. I think it's all unfair. Here's why. I think it's all unfair. There's always somebody that can potentially feel like something is unfair.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you believe in you reap what you sow?
Absolutely.
So you then believe in what I believe, because that's exactly what fair is. It's an even exchange.
So that's a good point. But here's the thing, right?
Oh yeah, I got you.
No, not really. But let's see. Maybe, right? The feeling is a thing, right? Feeling like something is unfair and the thing actually being unfair are two different things.
I can agree with that.
And because it's a thing, literally, it's a variable. it's X, right? It
Well,
might actually be fair, and it just feels unfair.
for the audience, let's dig into what you just said so we can get this. So let's say you're a husband and you're doing what a husband should do, and let's just do a couple things. Let's say one, you are you're loving your wife and you're talking to her and you're listening to her.
Yeah.
Those are three measurable
Mhm.
things that you can see.
Right.
And she's not giving you those things back. Is that fair?
It could be fair, yes. All right. Let's break that down. It could be fair.
Prestige.
It
And
could
the
be
reason
fair.
I
Let's break it down.
it's absolutely not fair. Okay, let's take this out. All right, all right. So let me get to this one. So
This is getting interesting.
so let's say you got a business partner and you
Right.
two have agreed that both of you will do X, Y, and Z to make the business work. You're in here, you've given your 10% of whatever it was. You show up to work every day and you've gotten the businesses that you said. Your other partner though is slacking. They not filling their role. They got the benefit of the deals you got, but they're not doing that part. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's unfair because there's a paycheck that we're chasing after.
So check this out. When we get married and we make vows,
Uh-huh.
we commit to doing X, Y, and Z. And if we
Co-
make a commitment and we don't fulfill our commitment, especially when the other person makes us aware of it, then that, sir, is unfair. I think what we've done, however, though, is particularly in the manosphere, we've taken the word fair and we've attached a weak meaning to it, and we don't actually respect the literal definition.
Right.
And there are some things that are unfair in marriage, and when that's known. And if it was vice versa, if your wife was giving you love and respect and you talking to her like crap, that's unfair as well. You're not doing your job. And so
but my answer stands. It doesn't matter if it's man or woman. My answer stands.
But I'm saying so that just means when it's unfair, somebody has to raise the balance of what they're doing so that there's a sort of equilibrium in that relationship, and somebody doesn't feel like they're giving something while the other person is just taking.
Oh, you're right.
But okay, there's a lot of things. It's a sequence of things that happens in a romantic relationship precisely, which is what most of these people are talking about. It's a series and sequence of things. Everyone, I repeat, everyone will be complacent at some point. Everyone will be oblivious to what is actually going on, which is why active listening is always important. Meaning, even after you listen, there's still some things you don't know. We know for a fact that you don't know at least the first 15, 14, 5 years of the life of your partner, right? So we also know that there's times that you as an individual, even in your relationship with that person, maybe you didn't show up, right? Maybe they can't even pinpoint that you don't show up. They just know that they feel kind of weird. Something is not adding up. But they feel like it's unfair. Maybe because they were raised in a family where they don't speak up. It could be the man or the woman. Until things have deteriorated, right? Maybe it's actually unfair that they don't know how to speak up to you because you were raised in a family where you speak up. In fact, what attracted you to the person is that they don't really bother you like that. It seems like everything is fine, but they're actually holding resentment in. They're holding resentment in, not realizing that they're doing that. Still, their responsibility as an adult because we're all right? But the time when they break down, it's like now, right? But the time when they decide to break down is that moment where, of course, you feel like you've done your part of the communication, but they're shut down, right? So if it's unfair, it has to be someone's fault. Naturally, when I'm feeling like she's being unfair, what do? I got to point fingers. It's just a natural thing I do, right?
See, that's that sort of thinking is what the manosphere has created. If we say unfair, it means someone is to blame, which means it's. I think about it this way: if I go to the doctor and I'm sick, if the doctor runs, analysis on me, they run some diagnostics, and they find a problem, but the doctor doesn't say, you know what? Say I blame this.
Right.
What we're doing is we're finding the cause, and I think that we have to change how we are framing this. That if we're saying that there's an issue here and we locate the cause, we're not saying that you're the blame. We're saying that this is the cause. And if this is the cause, the goal is not to stand and point fingers, it's to find a cure to fix it.
Right. Right. So when you might think of it as mindset, the fairness thing, it becomes a mindset. It's not even exactly as measurable as people try to make it be. It's not really that measurable. So I try to stay away from, because in love and war, all is fair. I try to stay away from the fair thing as a mindset, right? It's okay to express yourself as a babe. I would like you to do this. How I like you to do these things. I focus on that as opposed to, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. That's unfair. Mindset shift, it changes how you communicate. It changes your mood. It changes a lot of things because there's no paycheck next Friday. And there's no deals that we're chasing after. We're in a romantic relationship. As a matter of fact, I'm going to crash right next to you tonight and be snoring. And you could do all kind of stuff to me as you want. It's not the same thing. And we make that comparison all the time. We're not buying a BMW. This is another human being entirely. There is spirit. They're carrying so much that you don't know. So I believe it's always better to come from a place of humility, while as a man, you got to have a vision, a mission, something that you're chasing after, of course, right? Your reason, your purpose, a life mission and purpose. You should have that, because sometimes you just can't satisfy that person, and it should be okay. Because sometimes you're trying to be fair and you're probably already going past your limits. You're putting too much stuff on yourself because, again, you think in terms of fair. So people who think as that as a mindset, they tend to expect the same thing from the other person too. So I try to be careful with that. It doesn't mean it's not a real thing. It's a thing. That's why we're talking about it, right? I think women should be aware that they should be fair. I think men should stay away from unrealistic expectations around fairness. Does that help?
I get you. I mean, I disagree on the idea that's surrounding this, because I don't think the issue is about fair or unfair. I think it's about accountability. And if you know you're not giving your best, then you certainly need to do that, both men and women. And that's what I mean. So fairness should be the result of work, not necessarily the focus that we're talking about.
Okay.
That's
the mindset thing I was talking about, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, we should create a fair situation for all of us, right?
Absolutely.
All right. I agree on that. All right. Good. Listen, I could go forever with you, but let me play this clip. I see you, Brother Wrench. I'm going to come right to you. I like that. I want to get some smoking like that too, but I was raised quite differently. But let me do this, right? I want to play this video, and then let's chop it up about this Cory don't do it. I really want to hear your perspective on this, but I want to play this so that people can know what we're talking about, and then we'll take it from. I had more videos that I wanted to play, but we're not going to do that. We're just going to play this one video that started this conversation, and then we can have some context. Let's get to it.
Success. Yeah. I look at it as like a curriculum when you're in college or high school, right? You're learning, you're growing, you're evolving, you're creating. And I was able to create with Cory some beautiful, amazing children. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And at the end of that curriculum, and at the end, there's a graduation, there's a celebration. Mm-hmm. So that's basically, how I'm looking at it now. And I feel like people when they look at marriage, that success equals longevity. But no, at the end of the day, it's, are they happy?
All right. So let me bring Brother Wrench to the screen real quickly. Let's chop this up really quickly. Good to see you, brother.
What's going on? How y'all brothers doing?
Good
Brother
to see
Wrench,
you,
what's
man.
up, man?
Thanks for your support, man. I've been seeing you. Thank you for your support of this platform. Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Yes. Now, Sir Hale, this is what I understood last time. You said, Cory, don't do it. What do you mean?
I want to make sure that what I'm getting ready to say is irrevocable. I want to make sure that this is unequivocal. I want to make sure that this is clear. If a woman chooses to leave you and you are a decent man doing what you got to do not take her back. And the reason I'm saying this is because I think that most of the behavior that we see, and I would even say it's not even gender specific, but people will take you for granted and will play with you as long as you allow them. And I think there were a lot of men who allow women to go, come back, do what they want to do, and they stay in this emotional vortex trying to figure out what happened. No, if a woman chooses to leave a good man, I think that that man should not open the door and take her back easily, and that he should instead prepare himself for a woman who wouldn't do him like that. That's what I believe, and I think this mindset will make certain women think twice before they leave a good man, thinking that they can just go back on the market and find another one. I am Sir Hale Speaks, and I approve this message.
All right, I got a lot of questions around that, but let me first, brother Wrench, you're a content creator, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I've been around the manosphere for a couple of years, mostly on the back end. Came in through O'Shea Duke Jackson. We used to do a show called The Hall of Game. I want to say back in 2017, 2018. Well, one of the moderators for Kevin Samuels.
Okay.
Moderate for the lead attorney.
Okay.
Done shows with MTR. Some of the bigger
MTR.
YouTubers, but it's always been behind the scenes. But as of the last year, finally came out and showed my face a little bit.
Awesome. All right, good one, man. You've been around, man. So you have some experience around a lot of this conversation. What do you think about what Sir Hale just said?
Yeah, so one of the things I can touch on, I think I super chatted about it, is when you talk about servant leadership, I've been doing this would be year 10 in industry, and the way that it ties into relationships. And one of the things I think is super important when you talk about relationships and meshing the formal training with how it would actually work in a functioning relationship, right? Is there are certain things if our women, or if women in this country in general, want the guys that are the 100,000, the 150,000, a year guy, there are some things that are going to seem unfair. It is our responsibility on the back end to be responsible with that power that we have, right? And I give an example. So I'm somebody who has been blessed, right? I've worked really hard to get to a certain point in life. And the mark where I'm at is where a lot of sisters say they want to date at, right? But with the way that my work schedule is set up, and with the level of stress that I take on, she may seem like it's not fair that I don't want to go to the swap meet or to to the grocery store, when I get off. And it's one of the things that I'm not going to acquiesce on, right? Because I've been functioning at a super high level all day, and I have certain expectations for the way that I want the relationship to go. Now, the flip side of that is knowing that there are certain things I'm just going to say no to. I don't want to do it. I also have to keep that stuff at the back of my mind and say, okay, I know that she's been understanding. She sees that this is not something that I'm going to fold on. She's not arguing with me. She's not making this painful. I have to then double back, maybe on the weekend or something. I have to double back with a surprise or some tips, treats, and or I have to double back and make that right. So I think that gets left out of the conversation a lot of times, where a lot of women here in the US want these high functioning guys or these high value guys. They don't understand that there are some things that a lot of us are just not going to fold on. But what I would say for the men is that it is important for us to be responsible with that power if we want to have functioning relationships. Because what ends up happening is you sow this seed of, damn, I only get told what to do. I never, my perspective is never heard, and they hang around long enough to get alimony and child support. So those are the things that we have to be mindful of. And when it comes to servant leadership, that is primarily setting the foundation for them, for women to understand that, hey, I'm going to do everything up front in the beginning of the relationship to show you what my end goal is, how we're going to get there, some of the different chapters as we kind of march through this thing, so that you can understand, hey, if this is the kind of guy that I want to be with, then I really need to have a high level of understanding that this is not the guy that chases down baskets at Aldi. This is not the guy that works, stocking shelves overnight at Walmart. It is something completely different. But I don't want us to lose sight of the responsibility that we have to make sure we don't put ourselves in situations where you have somebody living under the roof with you that ultimately turns into an enemy to you.
Got it. All right. So what I'm picking up on what you said is we gotta lead. We gotta lead with whatever we're looking for, right? At least that's a prerequisite, right? There's nothing wrong with holding women accountable to, but we can't do that in the space of oh, she's just supposed to show up as that already.
Right.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, there are certain things that and that's where the servant leadership part comes in, right? Is you set those expectations up front, right? And you paint a clear picture within
Mhm.
reason, because sometimes the picture is so big to where you say, hey, this is where we're going to get to, or these are all of the things that I'm going to do, right? This is what you can
Right.
expect of me. And then you have to follow through with it um, every single time. And I know that that may sound hard, and it may sound like it may sound far-fetched, but whatever those principles that you set up front, you have
Mhm.
to follow through with them. So if you tell her, hey, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, then you have to
Right.
do it every single time. But you do that, even in industry, you do that up front to reap the benefit on the back end.
Right.
Hey,
Even
can I
in the
jump in?
corporate world. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
See what my brother was talking about is exactly what I believe. It's not that we are serving leadership and this is for marriage. Marriage is a part of a bigger thing. And when a
Right.
man is a servant leader, it's not just to the marriage and family, it's to his purpose. And this
Right.
is what I'm
Ah,
saying. Men have to be clear on what they're about. And I like what you said that when you function at a certain level, now listen, there's certain things I ain't gonna do, but what I
mm,
will do is because I love you, I got you on a different because what you're doing is you're investing in the bank account of your marriage so that the account doesn't go negative. And I think
Yeah.
that all men and women have to see that. So if
Yep.
you're working 16 hours a day and you're bringing in the majority of the money, your woman shouldn't be like, well, you work 16 hours a day. I'm tired of this. I'm sick of this. You know what she should do? When you come into the house, your dinner should be made. Your foot should get rubbed.
right.
She should throw it on you, put it on you from the chandelier, right? She should take care of you because that's how you it's a give and a take. She
Yeah.
sees your work and know that you're doing it so that she can benefit, and then she uses her life to help make it comfortable for you to do what you got to do. And that way
Right.
we're both getting what we need.
Yep.
Okay. So now what should happen is still fantasies at this point. It should happen. It's not necessarily happening. What do you think that it's not happening? Because you know what she should do if you walk system. What if she's been saying, "Hey, dude, we got enough. Can you? I need quality time." Right?
Immediately pull a plug. If and that's why I say it's important that you explain it on the front end, because I never said that, hey, I'm gonna slow down and I'm just gonna offer you all of this quality time. But in the same breath, that quality time comes. Remember, I said in the beginning, is understanding that, hey, she's been acquiescing all of this time and she hasn't been nagging. As you go through the pains of being somebody who's a high earner, the responsibility on our part, or I
Right.
will use myself as an example, the responsibility on my part is to double back to make sure, especially if I know that quality time is important to her, then it's my
Right.
responsibility to actively go and get that quality time, right? Because there's an appreciation that comes with, hey, you're not stressing me out, right? You're not when I get in, everything is done.
Right.
When I don't want to be bothered because I've been working from home and I want to turn all of the office lights off, and in the home office, you're not bothering me. You're making life easier. Then I have to keep in mind, and this is the hard part of being a leader. I have to keep in mind that you may be high functioning in your career, but if you're in a relationship, you have to spin the block. This has to be part of your fast thinking mind or your high functioning mind. You have to spin the block back and make that right. Now, if that's not enough, and I think it's going to what you're saying,
Right.
if that is not enough, and you
Mhm.
can't appreciate that I am actively trying to make sure you get this quality time that is important to you, then let me give you an opportunity to get out of this thing, because I'm not going to completely alter
Mm.
this thing that I already had going before you got here. You said you want to be with a guy who earn a lot. I've dated women who are afraid to fly. You know what I mean? And that's something that I do often.
Mm.
So, that's what I would say. At the end of the day, what makes it difficult for men, and something that I want the guys to understand, is what makes leadership hard is that you have to take a lot of different things into consideration, sometimes sometimes at the same time. So you have to be high functioning at work, and then you have to remember, oh shit, today is her birthday. I need to make sure that those flowers went out. I need to make sure that this
Right.
bow is on the car. I need to make sure that I get out here early enough to get to the dealership. You know what I'm saying? That's what makes leadership hard, and that's the part that I don't want guys to lose track of when they talk about getting to that high value level, or when you're
That high
interacting with
value.
women.
Are
Yeah.
you saying they lose focus sometimes of that part as a thing? Like that part, that
Mhm.
romantic part of being with your wife, it's
Mhm.
the real thing, right?
Yeah.
So here when you speak about this, it comes off as it's very natural to you. Like you take, like, even the way you say, "Hey, how you doing, baby?" with that challenge, right? It's almost like a lot of this stuff comes natural to you.
But it
Uh,
didn't.
okay.
It took work.
Yeah.
It took work.
Took work. So this is what I'm saying. This is why I tell men this. So many men cater to the momentary needs of their woman, and they lose focus of what they're about, and then they're never happy. Me and my wife, if she's on there now, the ironic thing is, she hooking the brother up, she taking care of something from real quick, right? We went through where she was like that. Like, you're not spending enough time, you ain't never here.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh, here go the keys. Here go your big old new house, right? And I was like, oh, okay, I got you, baby. So you have to circle back, but you can't be so focused on the nagging that it distracts you. Because I've learned that certain things are just part of growing up. Like, what's a concern at 27? It's not going to be a concern at 37. But you got to live through that and not major in minor things. And the biggest thing is being focused. If you have something you're working on, 9 times out of 10, if she's never seen it or had it, she will not understand the work you're putting in to get it. So you got to factor that in. And leadership is, all right, babe, a little comfort here. I still got to mention though. And then as you develop more, you're bringing her in. And you ask those questions, babe. See, this is what I was telling you about. Now you see I was working this hard. And then it gives her the opportunity to grow as well. And then it cements the respect she has for you, because she saw you were committed to doing something, like my brother said, and you got it done. That's what men have to do. The last thing I'll say is, men, stop focusing on being romantic if you are trying to work. Like, this is our wives are supposed to say, you're not spending enough time. That's your alert system saying you need to put some time in here. Like, listen to the alert system, give it what it needs, and then you got to get back to work, because we're not going to be 30 and 40 and 50 forever. So we got to build while we can, so that when it's time to chill and to really love and benefit from our marriage, we can do that, instead of being still steady working 16 and 20 hours when we're 60 and 70 years old. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Now, what I find, right, been doing this for a while, is that, and after going through some crisis of minds, and then learning on the other side, right, what I find is that it's actually the little things. Things like, what's going on with you, baby? It goes a long way. It goes a long way, because again, it's just the mind we're talking about. Just someone feel the same thing we want, feeling appreciated, right? Little things, right? When somebody say quality time, it doesn't mean you should take off work for the next 1 week and let's go to Dubai. That's typically not that's what it looks like on the surface. She might even say it out of her mouth. Like, all my friends that travel, or she might be already that bad already. Maybe she's watching too much Instagram, right?
But man of prestige.
Yes.
If you're a high value man, if she said that, you're gonna go try to make it happen, because that's how high value men think. If our woman is down for us and she says, I want to go on a vacation, we might not say we're gonna do it right now, but we're gonna put that in the back of our head.
Right.
And we're gonna try to make that thing happen.
Is that good or bad?
I think it's a good thing.
Okay. So for those that can't afford that, right? That they can't afford that, and you're starting to feel like maybe some people literally, like, this gets really bad for some people. They start snooping through the phone. What has she been listening to? It literally, like you said, distraction distracts them of their purpose, because now they're engaged with the idea of making this woman that's complaining happy right now.
Man, if that man is complaining, man, you can spend 2 years paying for carnival tickets. They not that expensive. Go on a cruise, it's gonna be just as good.
Okay. All right. Let me do some shout out real quick. Let me make sure that I'm appreciating the supporters here. Thank you again, Ricky, for that 4.99. Thank you again, D'Souza. Thank you, my brother Wrench. Again, great perspective. Thank you to my sister. I've been seeing you around. Take heed to the message. Shout out to you. Thank you for the support. I appreciate that. You know, um, so we when we're having this conversation, right? As men, we understand each other, right? We're speaking the same language, right? But how this thing transpire in real life um, has some nuances to it. It's not. I feel like we put too much weight on ourselves. Like for example, I set my plan, and it's gonna be. We know that it typically never goes like that, right? Sometimes you fall apart. Sometimes you set a goal. You wanted to build this house, and something happened to a deal, and then it shut down for the next 2 years. And now you're saying, babe, that thing we wanted to do is not gonna happen again. It wasn't no big deal to her. As a matter of fact, she's a wife. And she said, babe, don't worry about that, right? But then, while you're trying to, when she said, don't worry about that, as men, we are also emotional beings, right? We're like, oh, thank babe, but you are worried about that because that's a real thing that happened, right? And then before you know it, maybe things fell apart for a lot longer than you thought. It happens, right? Where do we leave room in any of these conversations for? Do we leave some space for what's the word? That's a word we use in the copy word for that, right? For this type of mishappenings that can happen, right? Contingencies, shit happens, right? As related back to your marriage, do we leave room in that? How do we address that with our wives or our significant other, if you will? You could go
So
first, Rich.
what I would say, the way that I've been going back to the training part, right? The way I've been trained and what I've practiced over the last 10 years is, so I work in manufacturing, right? And the way that I train supervisors and managers is, if they come to me and they say, hey, this piece of equipment is broken and production has stopped, I would say, okay, what are you doing to fix it? Well, I tried this and it didn't work. I would say, okay, now what? Well, I tried this and it didn't work. Then I would say, okay, um, are you reaching out for help? Like, are you contacting me because you need help? Because my expectation is for you to solve problems, right? Now, at the director level, you are compensated for your competency, meaning you are to solve problems quickly. So to answer your question, if we planned a vacation, COVID broke out, I'm sorry, or the beer virus broke out, and now we can't go, this is what sets, or this is what should set you apart from the average man. This is where you cut your teeth at right here. And the way that I would do it, I'm a single guy. But the way that my mind works is, hey, baby, listen, I know we planned that vacation. Carnival Cruise are having this outbreak thing go out. But I actually, since I know you've been looking at these tree houses in Tennessee, it's X amount of hours away. I'm gonna send you these links. You let me know if is this something that you're interested in, because that cruise that we plan on going on, that's completely out of the picture, right? So yes, everything messed up, but I went one step above and said, hey, I know I don't want to just leave it as, hey, we can't do it. Oh shit. You know what I mean? I'm going to say, hey, it didn't work, but here are some more options. Now, what that does is it says, hey, this guy has thought about, okay, it didn't work. He gave me some options. I don't like these options, but I like this one. Let me bring this one to him. So at the end of the day, the problem is still solved. You know what I mean? And those are the things that, and I mostly talk to brothers, but those are the things that set you apart from the guy who retrieves baskets at Aldi, from the guy who stocks the shelves at Walmart overnight. If you are a guy who we should be, if you are doing this thing right, not just in relationships and life in general. And this is why I talk to a lot of guys, because I know some haven't had a chance to hear this message. And I, just by looking at you two talk back and forth, I know that you understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
You automatically, okay, that didn't work, now what? That didn't work, now what? That didn't work, now what? Because when I come to her and I say that this thing didn't happen, I automatically know that her mind is going to be feelings. Damn, I wanted to do that. Oh, I'm down for the day. No, we're not going to give you an opportunity to do that. Hey, that didn't work, but here go these 3 options. And if you don't want to do that, well, I appreciate you sending those to me, but we could actually just go, we could actually just go on a walk over here, at this place that's 45 minutes away and let's have a picnic. Okay, cool. But at least we're doing something, right?
Right. Sir Hale, let me add a little bit of context to this, right? Let's say the example you gave, but it wasn't COVID. It's something that happened at work that she can't really relate with you. She doesn't understand what you're talking about. But something happened. It affected the ability to be able to go on cruise or whatever, right? So Sir Hale, how would you handle this with Lady Hale if this was the situation? She doesn't understand, all this, whatever happened at work. As a matter of fact, it's blind to her. She doesn't understand. How would you have this communication with her?
That's a really good one. So I got into technology so that wouldn't be a problem. I can do what I need to do anywhere. And
Gotcha.
I make it clear. Now, if there's something that's really major, like a deal or something that I can't go, then that makes something. But one thing I've learned about men of means and people who are striving for that deep success is that we all have a profound respect when it comes to family. And so if we know something is planned out, the people I hang out with will be like, you know what, I got you. We can reschedule this. You go take care of the wife. Now, again, this is not for everything, but for vacation, we respect that. And I encourage men to put yourself in position so that when you have time for family, you're surrounded with a group of men who respect family just as much like you do. Because you don't want it to always be you put your wife on hold for your job. Sometimes you got to be able to keep a plan. Now, if a like the pandemic happened, that's something completely different.
Everybody understands that, right?
But how often does that happen? You see what I'm saying? I think men should put themselves in position that when they're going on vacation, they can actually go on vacation. If they need to, they can work from around the world.
Right. So one of the elements of being a man is consistency. That's something we have to work on as men. That's something that's expected of you, both in the corporate world, also in your relationships as a man. Because it creates trust, literally, right? So even if you've messed up in the past, people tell me, "Oh, you got to be trust." I'm like, trust is the easiest thing if you understand that it's really all about consistency. If you still have a chance, all you have to do is all you need is change behavior and consistency, right? And then people naturally start trusting you. They don't know it. It's not deliberate. It's just something that happens naturally as a result of being consistent with a change behavior, right? So those were some really, really good points. Now, I want to go back to Cory, right? Cory is a guy who has been married for 14 years. Sir Hale, come on, man. Come on. 14 years. He's been married for 14 years.
Curry, you talking about Stephen Curry?
No. Cory. My pronunciation is probably off. Cory
Cory.
Mowry. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Cory Mowry,
My bad,
right?
man. My bad. I'm looking at Golden State. Well, my bad, man.
Right. So he's married for 14 years. The wife fell apart. The wife is no longer. There's a couple of videos that actually maybe give us a little bit more perspective into what's going on, right? So let me play this video, and then maybe this would change your mind. Maybe not, right? But let me see here. Let me play this video right here.
Oh my God, I actually remember that controversy. So here's a photo from the night when Tia Mowry physically confronted Keke Palmer for allegedly flirting with her husband, Cory. This was in 2015, so 7 years ago, you guys. They filmed some kind of low budget movie together, and Keke seemed to have a crush on him, okay? She used to talk about how she likes him so much, and this really pissed off Tia. So much so that almost immediately after Keke's interview aired about how much she liked her married co-star, his wife, Tia, took to Twitter to tweet, saying you like married men in interviews is not cute, ... just saying. Now, allegedly, when Tia confronted Keke in that photo that I showed you on the red carpet, Keke just said, listen, you need to chill. He's my big brother. There's nothing going on. Either way, this divorce is still super sad for me. I still can't believe it.
All right, so that video right there, that's just one of so many things that happened in a 14 years marriage. He wasn't necessarily cheating, right? Whatever was going on made her feel uncomfortable, right? It could be a series of many things. Maybe he actually cheated, right? And, as men, you still want to keep your family together. It could be a one-off. It could be something that happened 7 years ago and she's just not over it, right? And now she's separating. She wants out. And this is what she's saying to herself when she wants out. Let me play this one for you really quickly, right? This is what she's saying to herself, including the graduation part, right?
Because I was insecure. I didn't leave because I was broken. I left because I had a word from God. I tell people in toxic relationships all the time, they ask me, should I stay or should I go? And I say, I think you should stay until you have no other choice but to go. I don't think that you should keep going back and forth, because God will give you a word about when it's time for you to move. And you will be so convinced about that word that you don't care who gets the dog and who gets the money. Honey, all I care about is that you let me go, because I have a word from God concerning my next. I don't care who you're with after this. I don't care whose time you waste when you get finished with mine. All I know is that I am reclaiming my time. Come on.
Right. Now, I'm just giving us some perspective, right?
Wait, what? So who was that? Her video or somebody made that?
These are probably, remember she says she's graduating. She also said this, okay? Just so you give you a picture of the mindset of a woman who is asking for separation, who filed for
I just
divorce.
want to be clear though. Was that Tia's?
No, that wasn't her.
Okay.
This is just me painting a picture of what.
Okay.
You get it? So now let me play this one. Let's see here. A lot of things happen is the point. Let me play this.
You don't know if it's genuine. You don't know. You don't know if it's real. At least I know Tia got my back, to the grave. So I know she's with me, and she knows I'm with her. And that's just, everything's not perfect. Marriage is work.
And that's
Marriage is work. I'm not.
Wait a minute. That was they as black as fuck. She said, hold on. And let me finish. What'd you say, Cory? Cory, don't get cute.
Share that with somebody, for the rest of my life.
Don't get cute, Cory. She can interrupt you.
And then when just say if everything was great.
Interrupt him, Tia.
You don't know if it's genuine. You don't know. You don't know if it's real. At least I know Tia got my back, to the grave. So I know she's with me, and she knows I'm with her. And that's just, everything's not perfect. Marriage is work.
And that's
marriage is work. I'm not here.
Go ahead.
All right. He said, let me finish. Now, a lot of women took that one little part. I played it completely so you can see that he's actually speaking well of his marriage at that point, right? He was actually saying, hey, I know, I trust Tia. I trust that, I trust her. Now, it's not easy to find a wife. Not for a lot of people. This dating scenes, it's not easy right now, right? You can hear them say that, right? So my point to you is that as a man who is going through this, wife feel fed up, whatever her reasons are, she felt like she hasn't been herself. She needs to find herself. And then she's asking for separation. She's asked for divorce. You're still saying, don't take her back, Sir Hale. Is that what you're saying still?
I am saying unequivocally, incontrovertibly. I am saying unapologetically, do not take her back. And I also want to go back because we kind of made it seem like Cory may have cheated. And that's why she was jealous. I want to say this. Sometimes women are just jealous because a lot of times women are territorial about the man that they are with. So
right.
It doesn't necessarily mean he cheated.
Okay. All right. There's this, I have a question for you, Wrench, but let me play this, right? Let me play this about the cheating part, right?
Cory exposes her husband for cheating.
Dang.
Focusing on setting boundaries.
And they're hard to do sometimes.
Very. I mean, I'm in my 40s and I'm just now learning.
Wait, Tia Mowry got cheated on by her husband? We definitely did not see this one coming because Tia always spoke very highly of her husband Cory, and their marriage seems super solid.
I can't even.
Now it's become a he said, she said. She didn't say he cheated, right?
I was going to say, I didn't hear that.
So no, but this thing spread, right? But anyway, let's say some kind of whatever is going on, she doesn't feel secure about being in that marriage, at least now. If I know anything about women, what they say they're feeling right now is now. It's not necessarily forever. Now, I see your point that we don't want people thinking they can take off as granted and leave the marriage and think they can come back. I completely get that, right? But how realistic, let me ask you, Wrench, how realistic is Sir Hale's suggestion of 14-year marriage, 2 children? You saw how he spoke of his wife. How realistic is that? That he's just going to be like, I'll never take you back.
I think that once you bring kids into it, and I would also say, let me say this, if he did indeed cheat, part of being a leader, whether it's a leader in the industry or a leader in a family, is you have to take all that comes with that, right? So if that brought out parts of her that you absolutely hate, you have to understand that, damn, what I did was the catalyst to bring that out. So you have to make a decision, damn, am I gonna hang around and try to fix this thing, or is it over? Now that's if you cheated. If it was just, hey, she's sick of the marriage, she's saying, hey, we're done with it. I believe that you should try, because you think about it from the perspective of the kids, right? And I know people say, hey, kids don't necessarily make you stay, but I think part of how we got in this situation that we're in now is putting ourselves before the bigger picture, or putting ourselves before legacy, and putting ourselves before this thing that we really don't see too much of, which is the nuclear family. And Lord knows we have lots of agendas being pushed as alternatives. So as somebody who leans a lot more conservative, I think that you try and fix your family if it's just something that you guys are not seeing agreement on. Now, if she is saying, hey, it's over, I filed for divorce, it's a wrap. After you've gone through and you've put serious effort into trying to make it work, if she is just saying, nope, it's over, then you set that line and you say, hey, it's over. Hey, if it's over and this is going to be the dynamic going forward, then I'm going to try to do everything I can to try and make sure that my children have everything that they need. I'm going to put all of these provisions in place to make sure things work out. And that's why I agree with Sir Hale. There's absolutely no way of going back. You're not going to the streets and then spinning the block and come back when you find out that that grass is not as green as you thought it was. So I believe in trying to do the work to make it stick before you get real deep in these streets. I'm gonna try to prevent that from happening. But once you're out there, it's a wrap.
So typically, a man don't see it coming. They don't see the divorce coming.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not like, oh, I've made everything to work. No, you didn't even know. You never, like in your wildest dream, she's not leaving you. That's how a typical man think. They think when divorce happen over there, it's happen over there. It's never going to happen to us. Regardless, she's been complaining about whatever it is. You don't hear me. I feel like you don't listen to me. I feel like I'm just here. Whatever she's been complaining about. A man is just there and say, yeah, let me just keep my eyes on the bag. Right? And then she pulls the plug. And then surprise, right? So it's not like he's been working on it. As a matter of fact, she asked for therapy. This happens a lot. Okay? I'm a coach, so I get this a lot. Okay? So she's been asking for therapy, and he's like, dude, like, therapy, what do you need that for? Let's talk. Let's have a communication. And she's like, you're not hearing me. So he still never expected that it's gonna be divorced. One day she pulls the plug, right? And she's like, I'm over at my parents' house. And you're like, you're not coming back to my house. That's not realistic. Rejection breeds obsession.
No. So I think that men have been taught to be fearful. That if she leaves, you're not a man of God, because a leader would go, think about Hosea and Gomer. Just think about, and we put all this fear in men. No, if she leaves and you are a good man, I guarantee you, I bet you money, you will find somebody quicker than she will. Now let's do some mathematics. For all these women who are just leaving their marriages, let's do some simple math. Right. How many of them are actually doing better? All these women who I can find somebody else. Most women are not doing better. But I guarantee you, if a man moves on, he will do better, because when a woman breaks up with a good man, There are about 10 other women who'd have been through heartbreak who now know what to do with a good man. And if she gets him, she gonna make sure he ain't going anywhere. So
Okay,
that's what I say. If she chooses to leave and he did what he got to do, she gonna stay going. And that's now I like what my brother said. Leaders have to take the consequences. What comes with that. If she, because now she's got to be a leader in her own life, she's got to take the consequences of what she did. If she cared about the kids so much, she would have done it in the first place.
Right.
And that's how I feel about that.
So watch this, Sir Hale.
Kind of got upset.
Watch this, right? I gotta get my own board together. But anyway, watch this, right? She left me, right? And I heard what you just said. You really think I'm gonna say I'm a bad man? Is that how that's gonna work? I'm not gonna say I'm a bad man. I think I'm a good guy. I think it's irrelevant to relationships if you're a good guy or not. That's one of the problems. People think they're a good guy and they think that's it. That's a big problem. It's creating a lot of problems. That's not enough. That's where you're supposed to be a good guy for yourself.
No, see, I disagree. When we take vows, we say these words for better and for worse. Because in marriage, as you go through different iterations of yourself, you're going to be different. Sickness can bring about changes, stress, mental health. These different things bring about different versions of yourself. And when we get married, we are married to each other, not just for the good times, we're married even through the bad times. And that's why I say it's not about the focus on being a good guy or a good woman in the sense of everything is being done right. We marry each other through the different phases of marriage, because that's what marriage is.
Yeah, because you mentioned that a few times. That's why I dwelled on it, right? Like, if you know you're a good guy, like, I know I'm a good guy. My wife for 14 years, I don't know what's going on. If you know you're good, I don't feel like a good guy. I'm questioning everything about myself. That if I'm such a good guy, how come my wife can't leave me? These are the questions that get people to end up in the manosphere. These are the realities, right? Ideally, I agree 100%. Number one, I don't agree that you should be begging someone to stay with you. I don't negotiate desires. I agree fundamentally with that. But in terms of, you call it she spin the block, and then she thought the grass was greener on the other side. That's mostly how they're going to feel. They think the grass is greener on the other side. And sometimes they just have to chat with, I know you're going to hate this, chat with a couple of pookies out there. And they're like, oh shit, there's nothing out here, right? And then she starts to appreciate you. How is she going to appreciate you? She's not going to appreciate you if you're chasing after her. I agree with that, right? But if you're the man you're supposed to be, and she comes back around and she said, I think we can work on the marriage, right?
I'm sure you do, ma'am. I'm sure you do.
Right. It's done.
And you're just going to be like, no. And then your kids, I don't know if this has ever happened to any one of you. The worst feeling about this is your kids.
No,
let me tell you in the eyes.
Not
about reality. I'm not talking about what it should be.
I'm telling you, like real what I've seen. Kids are not stupid. If that's a good man, the kids know he's a good man, and they're gonna be upset with their mama for putting them in that position in the first place. So it ain't gonna be what we think it is, even though they're gonna suffer. Our kids, especially if they're older, they see what's going on. And that's why you have a lot of people. Look at the manosphere. Look at how many people are now coming out talking about how mothers wreck them or what mothers put them through, because kids aren't crazy. They know when their mama had a good man and they let it go. And that's why kids are having to heal from that now. So kids see it as well. And what's going to happen is those kids are going to hope that their dad finds love. Now, if it just so happens they can get back together, of course, any kid will love that. But thinking kids are like, no, I want my dad to be happy with somebody who's going to love him and not put him through that.
If you go through, here's what I'm going to, because I want to bring a lady Navor, right? If you go through separation, right? If somebody files separation in a marriage, I am saying it's unrealistic to expect that man to be capable of saying, I don't want her back, if she suddenly changes her mind. I'm not asking you to chase her. I'm saying she changes her mind. I'm not asking you to take her back right away, but to just say, no, that's it. That's easier said than done. Do you agree with that, Sir Hale?
Leave her alone. Do not accept her back. And let me tell you something. Lady Hale is probably watching this. Let's say me and Lady Hale go through something. We go through something, and she going on Man of Prestige and doing an interview and talk about our divorce as a graduation. Then she go over there to Black Men Unfiltered and talk about this was a graduation. Then she go over there to TLA. Let me tell you something. She didn't even have to have been with nobody else. The fact that you would do that. No, we don't, because my name means something to me. And if you being that close to me will go and publicize it like that, and now people are speculating what I did wrong, and my kids are seeing this. No, you're gonna live with that. You're gonna absolutely. And my wife would, but I'm saying you're gonna have to live with that, because especially if he's doing his job, I didn't hear any signs of neglect of the kids. And I think he even made one post to say, "I still love my wife." Out of all the stuff that was said, he interjected that so people would know he's still. No, you do a man like that. Let Pookie and Ray, call Tyrone.
You better call Tyrone.
He'll take care of you, but you're not coming back here.
All right. Lady Navor, how are you, Lady Navor? How are you?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Maybe come closer to the mic a little bit.
No, I gotta turn my thing off. I was trying to turn it off. It's cold out here.
All right.
Can you
It
hear me
is.
better?
Yeah, it's better. It's better. What's going on with you? Thanks for calling in.
I turned the little engine that could off. But how y'all doing? This is a good topic.
Fantastic. Tell me, what's on your mind about this whole thing?
Let me say hi first. Hi and hello to the kings on the panel. How you guys doing?
How's it going?
How you doing? I agree with what we was just talking about. If you have a good man and she don't appreciate you, then let her leave. Like Hink was said, leave her at the restaurant. Vice versa. There's a lot of good women out there who take a lot of poo-poo from these toxic men in their marriages, and they try to hold on to it because of possibilities, and they fighting for it because of the marriage. Now, if he was a boyfriend, they ain't gonna probably fight for it, but most marriages, they gonna fight for it. But then my dad always told me, rest in peace. When a man and a woman get fed up, they know it. And when they get fed up and they know it, then that's when they leave. But if you in a marriage the right way, under God, trust and believe, He got your back. You know what I'm saying? Mess with His anointing, He got your back. So if you're doing the best you can and it's one-sided, and the other person don't want to get help and you getting help, and they talking to a marriage counselor or life coach or whatever, and you're not, and you tried that with him or her, and it didn't work out that first time, and you get your next a couple years later, you get your next life coach or whatever, you ain't gonna want to present that to him because you already know it's a waste of time, and he telling you. So I'm just saying, and y'all heard me on panels before, some of you guys, and y'all know how I talk. I keep it 100 to the best I can, and I will say this, and a lot of women don't like this. We are for the men. God made us for y'all, but and you guys are for us. But y'all came first. Adam named us woman after man. One man. And then y'all want to do the rah-rah sisterhood and stuff. That's cool, though. But don't get mad when you're still single. And be a shoulda, coulda, woulda, and be like, I should have did it like this, but it's too late. I seen women older get married. So when people say, "Oh, you lose your value when you get old," and da 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 da, I take that different. It depends on how you carry yourself.
Why do you think that the women don't like that when you say that?
Say what? Oh, because they think that I'm against them because that's their style and it ain't my style. Just like you be a part of a clique and you don't fit in, they don't like you because you're doing the smart moves and they doing the stupid rules. See, I never want to. First of all, let me break this down for the rah-rah sisterhood. I'm independent. We equal. I don't need no man. First of all, hold up. I always need a man. Can you open this for me? Can you fix my car? And when I go to a car lot, I'm not taking to no all women's car lot. Next, independent. Yeah, when I met my husband, I was independent, but I never ever advertised it to him and made him feel like, oh, I don't need you. You gonna buy me something, baby? Go ahead. You know I can do it, but I would never let you feel like that. It's okay to be independent, lady. But when it comes to your man, be dependent to him. There's a difference. You don't go up and be like, I can do that myself. You shortstopping your blessings, number one, because you married under God. So a lot of people don't get married under God, and that's why the marriage go wrong. And the last one,
Mm-hmm.
we equal. First of all, I don't want to be equal to my man, because I always use this example. Thank you, Kevin Samuels. If we lay in the bed at night and my door get kicked in, and I always say, "Man, we equal. We're gonna do this," and he look at me and say, "Baby, gonna check on that." And
Mm-hmm.
I look at him all crazy, and he tell me we equal, right? I can't get mad. I'm like, all right, I'll go check on, but you got my back, right? You know, if you gonna have your BALLS out like Kevin Samuels and they ain't cuffed up and put up or whatever, then when it's time to be that equal, have them still hanging out how you got them in the beginning. That's how Kevin can see people take Kevin Samuels the wrong when they use it to their way.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I don't like that. I don't like that. And I always say, he didn't say that. He didn't say that. He didn't mean it that way. Because I'm a true Kevin Samuels follower, and people didn't like that. You get mad how you talk. Listen to the message. He was telling the truth. And everything he was talking about, I seen it. I live out here where the high value men are. My husband works at a high value job. And I'm not saying that just to be saying it. So he'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you, I keep it 100. I don't have to lie to look. I don't have to be on nobody's, some group. I solo by myself if I have to be my own friend. I don't care.
Mm.
So that's what I want to say about that. And with the kids, if your relationship ain't going right, don't involve your kids with your problem, because Sir Hale said something earlier and he didn't finish it, but I'm gonna finish it for him. Your kid will choose who that right parent to be. You know what I'm saying, to go to. I seen that happen. Hey Judge, um, young man, who would you like to go home with today? I want to go home with my dad. And she sour pussing, looking at you. Uh, don't get mad at me. Get mad at your son. He picked me because he know daddy always at the football game. He see you push me out and you can't. He see
Mm.
that daddy always trying to give him money and you using that for whatever because you buy everything and they take that. So I don't know, but let me stop. But that's what I wanted to say at the beginning. And
Interesting.
man of prestige, I'm gonna
Yes,
have to
ma'am.
jump. I'm gonna have to jump you with somebody because I can't take you by myself. But I want that book.
Which book?
Oh, which book?
I got a few
Oh,
books. I got four.
give me all of them then. I need the
Oh,
book though because I have MS.
send,
I
send,
gotta
send
I
me a
gotta
message.
look
I'll
at it.
send you links to all of them. You can get
I
them for free.
I did, but I don't want it. I don't want that fake book
Oh,
on
you want
mine.
the physical?
Yes.
All right, send
And
me a message. I'll
can you
get them out
sign
to
it?
you.
And
Send
can
me a
you sign
message.
it? Can you
Send
sign
me,
it?
yeah, yeah. Send me your address. I'll get them out to you. I'll sign them. Yeah.
I really came up here to ask you about the book though, because I want that book. Because I think that book is very interesting. And thank you, because I've never been on your panel, and I want to give you all flowers. Thank you
I
for
appreciate
everything
you. I
that you do.
appreciate you. You're a big
Thank you.
supporter of the platform. I appreciate you. I appreciate Sir Hill because I think
That's a
you
Oh,
and
fact.
that's boss
this
man
is
right there. That's boss man right there. He know that's
yeah,
family right there. Sorry, salute.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming up.
Gotta give Lady Boy a hand clap on that
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. So I mean, listen, that's the lady. She spoke it. She spoke well. Uh, a lot of people, uh, they are good men. That's the part I want to dwell on. They are good men. Yet the relationship fell apart. In fact, they are married to a good woman. Yet the relationship fell apart. That's the majority of people in the court. And that's the part that when I bring you back, Sir Hill, I wanted to speak to that part. Good people ended up in divorce courts all over the place. Now, to a large extent, you're absolutely correct. They disconnected from the vows. The vows are difficult because you committed to those vows when you didn't know what the hell you were doing. You just thought it was going to be like a walk in the park. But those vows are going to be tested in real life, not just because you're married. As an individual, life will test you and will drag you sometimes. So when you're in a marriage, we have a tendency to point fingers at the marriage or the other person, especially if there are obvious signs that they haven't been up to par too, right? Because no one is perfect, right? Those part of the conversation, right? When you and I were good people, but relationship skill set around it. I want to talk about that. Telling the truth. You're telling the truth. You're trying to communicate all the while. Both of you are trying to communicate, but you end up in this toxic argument every single time you try. That happens, you know. And I think it's majority of the situation. They're not the loudest. The loudest is something where somebody has gotten with somebody who is a terrible human being. Right? So, and I think those people will benefit more from us, than the rest of those one will benefit too. But again, if you're married to a bad person, you're married to a bad person. What do you want me to tell you? You're married to a bad person. That's just a bad person. But what if they're not bad and they don't know any better? They ask for a separation, right? They are Tia Mowry, right? Fundamentally I agree with you. We should never encourage that. I'm just gonna take you back every time you change your mind. No, that's terrible. We should never encourage that. But I'm wondering, what are the nuances here, like in terms of reality, right? For the men that are listening, that find themselves in a place where they are now taking her back from a very weak place. They told themselves they will never take her back, but they're now doing it from a very, very weak place, That's the part I don't want to happen, right? Not necessarily the rule of don't take her back, but when you told yourself you will never take her back, but you end up taking her back and you're going back and forth. A lot of people do back and forths, But I want to appreciate you, Sir Hale. I want to appreciate Ranch for coming up, for making the conversation even much more colorful. Sir Hale brought the color to this platform today, So I appreciate you, gentlemen. But we're going to continue the conversation, and I want to give you the floor to give us a last word, Ranch, and then I'll go to Sir Hale.
Yes, sir. I would say that being someone, like I said, who moderated for Kevin all the way up until the day he passed, we would see a lot of messages that would come through and we would block a lot of the noise out as moderators, right? One of the things that really made Kevin's message stick is when you talk about the nuances to why marriages aren't working or why women are leaving. He tied it back to this programming, right? The social media, the feminism piece, all of the programming that goes into obliterating the nuclear family and replacing it with something else. I think in the beginning, whenever we get into relationships or whenever we are in the courting phase, how the old folks say. For me personally, I know you two guys are married, but those are conversations that I have up front because I want to know how much are you influenced by television, social media, and what shows up on that little screen on this on these devices that so many of us carry, right? I think that the conversation is worth having. As someone who's not married, I look to guys like you because I believe in going to find people who are already doing it to ask the questions, and I think that is the smart thing to do. So I think that the conversation is important. I would say for the sisters that hear these conversations, definitely understand that there is an agenda for you to not be in these nuclear families or to obliterate the nuclear family. So understand that part too, and also, take a real strong look and make sure that and ask yourself the question: have you been influenced? Because I do it. For the men, I think my parting message, and then I'll land my plane. My parting message is: remember that it is the measure of a man is what you do with the power that you have. So you use it for good, or you can use it for bad, right? But that is a true measure of when you have that much power and you have a lot of influence. How do you use it? And I think that's in relationships, in your daily life. If you are in your careers or in industry, like me, remember that servant leadership. A lot of times you have to set the tone. You have to do a lot of the heavy lifting. And a lot of times you don't get what's coming to you until everybody else has got what's coming to them 3 or 4 different times over. But the idea
Right.
behind servant leadership is to give it up on your end, to give it up on the front end, and you'll get your reward on the back end after everybody else is have entrusted you and understand your
Right.
leadership style.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. Thank you so much for coming up, bro. Please, you're welcome here anytime. And let me
Absolutely.
know if there's any way that I can help your platform as well. Please, let's link up on Instagram.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, brothers. Y'all be good.
All
Hey,
right.
dope
Take care.
perspective, man. Good meeting you.
Yes, sir. Likewise, brother.
All right, sir. All right. So, Sir Hale Speaks. We did this, man. Finally. But we got to do it again because I felt like it wasn't enough. I had more smoke for you, but
Definitely, this is fun, man. This is fun.
yeah, this was fun. It's just different when you're having that conversation and you're rubbing minds together. It's another level for me. I could talk forever, but for me, the way I feel, it's another level when you're able to have conversations and see different perspectives to things. But fundamentally, I think we're on the same page. Definitely, we want men to step it up, and what it looks like on the surface. It's not what it may seem like in terms of when you mentioned husband and being a man, and one comes before the other, and you know. So I really, really appreciate your perspective today. So what do you want to leave us with, man?
Men, if you are doing what you got to do and a woman chooses to leave you, let her go, replace her. I think men need to set a precedent that we won't just stay around because of our loyalty. We stay around because life is full of purpose. And too many of men have passed away early because they didn't know how to break away and leave a bad situation because the strings of their heart were connected to someone who didn't have his best interests. And I'm saying that men have an enormous amount of influence, and that if you don't take your purpose seriously and make sure that you are healthy and make sure that you are alive, there's a lot of people who won't benefit from what you have inside of you. So I'm not saying this because I want to promote divorce. That is not what I'm doing. I'm saying, however, I want men to set a precedent that people can't just come in your life and walk out and then pull on your leadership strings as a way to gain leverage to come back in. No, if women leave good men, some of them shouldn't get a second chance. And I would even go so far to say that in the reverse as well. If they do give you a second chance, then that's great on them. But I think we have to set a standard now that we can't waste people's time. We can't put the family at risk. We can't hurt the family. And then once we have a wake up moment, then we're supposed to just forget the damage you did and welcome you back in. No, if you don't want those consequences, do all that you can to preserve your marriage. Now, what I heard from Mrs. Tia, and which is the premise of the show, is that there wasn't those bad moments. It could come out later that it was, but from what I hear, he seemed like he was a pretty solid dude. And because she was unhappy and wanted to find herself, that was more important than family. I think people who put themselves beyond their family that they built should have whatever consequences are a result of that. And the same thing with men. You got a good woman, hang with that good woman, and y'all do what the work it takes to build a successful life. But I'm done with the days where we're just gonna play with each other's hearts and emotions, and then we're gonna have a come to Jesus moment and act like it doesn't exist. No, if you want to appreciate them, move out of the way and make space for somebody who will. That's my message. That's what I'm sticking to. I am Sir Hale Speaks, and I approve this message.
Love it. Sir Hale Speaks 2024. Nice one, man. Nice one, man. I want to appreciate you, man.
Hey, appreciate you, my brother, and thanks for having me.
You gotta go, right?
I do.
Okay. All right. We'll talk soon.
Hey, my brother, I appreciate you, man. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, brother. All right. So that was a good one. Shout out to Take Heed to the Message. Shout out to Lady Navor. Shout out to everyone that came by. Sunshine, I saw you. Bagavad, I saw you. My regulars, I saw all of you. I see all of you. Shout out to Wrench. Shout out to everyone in the chat. I appreciate you all. Here's something I'm going to leave you with, okay? Because I think we did it justice. We needed to hear all of those perspectives, right? All of it. We needed to hear every single one of those perspectives. It's very important. It's not about, we're not setting rules here, but like you said, we're setting some kind of frame here, right? No, like we're getting to that space where people just think, hey, we can just do anyhow and get away with it, we definitely have to push against that. I agree 100% with that, Here's my message for all the gentlemen, as always, okay? Being a good man is not enough to maintain a relationship. It's just not. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know that's terrible news for some of you. It's not good enough. It's good enough for you to still enjoy life, but you might break a few relationships directly or indirectly before you realize that there's more to it. There are skill sets around this. Okay, there's communication skills. Okay, there's emotional intelligence, which doesn't mean you know how to define emotional intelligence. It means you know how to practice it. It means you've mastered your emotion. It's an ongoing practice. It's not something you finish doing. You know how to master the emotions of the other person you're interacting with. And you also do that with respect to the emotions of the society at large. You don't live in a cave. There's social skills involved in this. Okay, so that's something that I want to tell the gentlemen, and I've noticed that a lot of gentlemen speak from a very pragmatic place. That's just who we are as men. That's how God created us. But you have to step it up. Okay, married under God. It's like, what does that mean, right? What that means to a lot of people is different, right? If you're a Christian, we know what that means, right? But we also know that majority of you go to that altar to just run your mouth and you really didn't mean, not because you didn't mean to mean, it's just you're not capable of meaning what you're talking about. You're going to be tested. Real life will test you, right? So there's more to it. Now, when you're committing to those things, you have to be aware that you have to keep committing to it. And commitment means you committed to something, but you stay committed to it long after the mood that you set it in has left you. Right? So there might be days that you don't feel like being in that commitment, but you have to stay. That the whole meaning, the whole point of commitment is to stay in it, right? It's easier said than done. So now what is it going to take? What is going to make it easier for you to be able to stay in a situation that you don't feel like staying in? What is it going to take? There are skill sets behind this. There's more to the conversations. We need real life examples. You need to tell your story. You need to have someone help you unpack your story because it depends from people to people, right? Telling the truth, that's not enough either. And Lady Navarre, she gracefully said, you tell the truth, we tell the truth. All that stuff doesn't matter. What you are calling truth is a function of what your belief systems are, right? Maybe you're in a blind spot. Maybe you're not in a blind spot. Maybe the other person is in a blind spot. And what they're receiving when you say truth is just basically brutality. We call it brutal honesty, right? And all they can feel is the brutality. And then you're wondering, well, I'm telling the truth. What's wrong with me? That part is wrong with you. You don't realize that there's another human being involved in this, right? Those are the realities that will play a part in this. Last but not least, I agree 100% with Sir Hale here. The most powerful thing you can learn how to do is let go. Let go. If somebody dumps you, the most powerful thing, easier said than done, let go. If there's any good that will come from the future, I don't know how that's going to transpire. I'm not really subscribing to that. Don't ever take her back. I don't know. I don't know your story. I don't know the particulars of what happened, so I can't really say that. But particularly the let go part is something that you will have to do in order to attract new vibes, new life, whatever that means. I don't know how that's going to transpire. What I can tell you is that with or without that person, okay? Sometimes it means without that person. It's just what it is, right? But if that's what you want to get back with your wife, your best chances is to still let go. And you have to do that with everything in you. You can't be in a space of weakness. You can't be in a space, I just want her back. You can't do that. Okay, it's going to backfire really badly. You're not going to like yourself. And it's just, So, yes, let's do that. Let it go. And by the way, for you as a woman, that goes for you too. If somebody dumps you and the unilateral checks out of your romantic relationship, please don't negotiate desire. It doesn't work. Okay, refocus all that love back on yourself, work on yourself, take care of yourself so you can attract real love. Okay, you're going to literally attract it. That's how it's going to work. But I subscribe to the message, let go. The particulars, like, no, I don't agree that it must be, never take her back. I think that's unrealistic, especially when children are involved. But I think we should push that message. I don't like the idea that, quote unquote, people think they can just repeat talking points and, I'm not willing to stay because I don't want to stay like that. Dude, no, you subscribe to lifetime. And if there are situations that are happening, you have to make sure you work on it first. Start by working on yourself. And if you're letting go of that marriage, be ready to let go for life too, because hey, somebody may have listened to us tonight and say, you know what, I will never take her back. Some people are naturally like that. Some people have to listen to us tonight to be in that space. And generally speaking, like I said, generally speaking, the only way is to let go when somebody checks out of a romantic relationship. If they're gone, let them go. Now, I subscribe to the idea. Let me know if you change your mind. Letting me know if you change your mind doesn't mean I'm going to take you back. Okay? It just means maybe I didn't see this coming. I feel like I could have done better. I feel like, yes, she's been complaining. I was completely complacent, right? Maybe maybe you feel that way, that you could have done better, right? But the last thing you want to do is get down on your knees as a man and start begging for her to come back. You will literally push her further away. By the way, some of them will sit in the same house with you and separate with you in the same house. The same rules apply. You have to let go at some point. Letting go is a powerful thing to do. It allows you to refocus all that energy back on building self, because everything else is a function of self-confidence, self-esteem, self-worth, self-respect, self-love, all of that, right? You need to take care of yourself. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, take care of yourself so you can be an asset for your relationship. Hopefully you've been enlightened and educated. I'll see you on the next one, and peace.
What?